So I file, after contacting all of the local, state, and federal authorities in the executive level, and after notifying the entire House of Representatives and Senate, not just at the general headquarters, but individually to all, respective parties, and getting not one phone call, contacting civil rights, representatives for our government and Health and Human Services, and I exhausted, I'm talking, I literally sent out thousands of emails. I literally sent out hundreds of faxes. I literally sent out dozens and dozens of snail mail, U.S. mail, return receipts. I got proof that I have tried, man. I have tried as hard as I can to get these people arrested, man, to get them behind bars properly, man. I have not gotten it so far one authority, man, to do any honest investigation, and the only thing I've gotten is threats and additional hardship for my efforts at trying to save people's lives, including my own, and to keep me from, during that whole time, from losing my home and from losing my estate, like what has happened. And now I'm fighting, basically, impoverished, man. If it hadn't been for, I suppose, extreme efforts, really, on my part, I'd already be dead. And thankfully, man, a few people that actually helped me move, even though I didn't want to. So I file a $10 trillion. Here's the filing. This is a real suit. It's a real complaint. I paid. I should have been at least heard, at least able to present evidence. There's the Washington civil court case number. All these people were notified of the same allegations I've been telling you. First I notified them again directly with, email, faxes. I've got all the log reports. I've got all the fax log reports. I've got all the email confirmations. Sending all the digital evidence to them. And I, again, return receipts. I've got ample evidence, man, that I'm not just like going public now because, I'm jumping the gun. It's that I'm at my wit's end. I have exhausted, every, known form of remedy. I contacted the media. I contacted rags. I contacted, political rights movements and, personalities and stuff, investigative reporters, media, man. I have made an effort. All these people, man, were directly contacted, man. At any rate, there's also a Idaho number. Where is it? Motion for change in venue, because it started in Washington. Deaconess is in Spokane, Washington, where the mass murderer James Joy and the other mass murderers are working, still loose in society. No telling how many other people they've murdered, man. No telling how many people that the last thing they saw was some snickering psychopath that thought it was funny to kill him. No telling how many people, because I can't get, cops or investigators or anybody decent, anybody at all with any intelligence, man, to, put these people behind bars where they belong with just even the slightest amount of investigation. They could find out I'm telling the truth. I can't believe I'm having to do their job, having to, go public with the evidence. Here's the case number for Idaho. So you can read, man, that I served all these people, man. United States government, U.S. Attorney General's office. In other words, all these people are aware of my allegations, and not one phone call, not one visit, not one investigator, not one reporter, nothing, nobody, man. I mean, people being murdered in hospitals and tortured brutally, and apparently, and hundreds of millions of people with a genetic trait that leads to every form of serious and terminal, and that's not somehow newsworthy. More than 1 million Americans dying prematurely in hospitals across America every year, and that's not newsworthy. I mean, we get a few thousand, man, that lose their life, you know, of some obscure illness or car accidents or drinking or you know, a few, you know, dozen maybe in the war, why millions were displaced and stuff on the other side of things, right? And that's somehow newsworthy. But more than 1 million Americans slaughtered every year in our own hospitals doesn't, you know, is not a newsworthy story. You know, hundreds of millions of people with a genetic trait that leads to every form of serious and terminal condition known to mankind is not a newsworthy story. I mean, I can't believe what I'm going through, and can't believe people's apathy and ignorance, man. I mean, with just a little bit of research could find out I'm telling the truth, and it would help, like I said, hundreds of millions of people. I mean, this isn't like I'm not doing this, man, just for myself, man. This is for me, this is, I mean, with my conscience before God, I have to. I mean, even if I don't succeed, even if I end up dying in the process, I mean, I have to. This is, for as far as I'm concerned, some of the greatest news stories of the entire century. And the fact that our society's become so corrupt that I've had to go to these measures at all is sad, man. It is sad. So, I mean, this complaint, man, was made known. And a tiny portion of the evidence, hundreds of photos I have technological artifacts. I've got, I mean, a ton of evidence, and I'm telling the truth, man, and about government corruption and involvement in this whole thing. The fact that they haven't done anything but have left these mass murderers free, and despite all this that I sent to them, again, not a drug addict, you know, everything negative. Hospital deaths, man. This is, I mean, just a little research, man, on hospital deaths, man, that, I mean, make the news here and there, but really, I mean, nobody's covering, man, the extensiveness, man. I mean, not really, as far as I can tell, nothing mainstream, that's for damn sure. Adverse drug reactions. You call them accidental hospital deaths, but when you talk about numbers this great, that's a hell of a lot. I mean, iatrogenesis, man. I mean, we're talking hospital-caused deaths, man, whether it was called an accident or not, man. 5 million medication reactions each year. Huge, man. Fatal medical errors, man. And with good reason we're fearful, man. More than 1 million premature deaths every year. Only a fraction of the, no, only a fraction of the ones that are reported, man. Could be as high as 3 million, 14% fatality. Over 1 million patients are injured in U.S. hospitals each year, and approximately 280,000. This is conservative. 280,000 die annually as a result of these injuries. I mean, think about that. Even if these conservative figures, man, of 280,000, man, nearly 300,000 Americans die annually by hospital caused and 1 million injured, you know. Conservative, right? And think about all the other mortality rates, man, compared to that. When I say that the most dangerous place for an American to be in these days is hospitals, man, it's with good reason. They're not all like, whoopsies. They're killing people, man. They're murdering people. They can profit off their organs. Some of them are just downright sadistic. And for that many people to be that incompetent, cause that many permanent injuries, serious injuries, and deaths, frankly, that's the kind of thing that should be not only newsworthy, but like I said, there's no reason for cameras, man. Look at this, man. 1.2 million iatrogenic deaths, man. That's a lot, man, of people dying every year by hospital cause. Whether you want to believe it, you really want to believe that people went through med school and they're that, you know, how do you say, incompetent that they cause, like, I mean, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to die, and it's all accidental? Give me a break, man. They're taking advantage of people's naive, trusting, good, kind souls, man, and getting away with literally euthanization and murdering people, man. Katrina, man, CNN ran the story, and those people should have been locked up. Absolutely locked up. I mean, this is serious, man. I mean, I can't believe, man. These are doctors and stuff coming forward, too, man. This isn't just like, oh, you know, somebody, man, trying to, you know, inflate numbers and stuff. These are doctors' reports, man, the ones that have a conscience. Ethics, man. I mean, this is serious, man. I mean, I wonder how many people are aware that the most dangerous place for them to be in the United States of America is a hospital. There's like some 800,000, man, death rate. And that's underreporting, man. Underreporting. As few as 5% and only up to 20% of iatrogenic acts, man, in other words, hospital-caused injuries and deaths, you know, are ever reported, man. A report shows that 6 jumbo jets are falling out of the sky each and every day, right? I mean, as far as if it were equivalent, right? In other words, it can't be mistakes, man. People are being murdered. And they say induced inadvertently by a physician. And again, do we really believe these people went through med school, man, went through all their years of college, man, and they're just like, oops, you know, to the tune of like 1 million deaths every year or 1 million permanent injuries? And this one's only rated at about 800,000 a year. Still, now refers to tens of millions, man. Overall. Talking about antibiotics, man, doing more harm than good, you know, the resistances and so on and so forth, and then trying to figure out, you know, there's more adverse drug reactions actually to prescribed medicines than ever before. Wonder why. Like I said, man, pharmaceutical companies make more money off leaving people sick. I mean, look at all the illegal organ harvesting, you know, all over the world, man. And that's just the ones that are being busted. In other words, that's the ones where it's just so damn commonplace, man, they can't hide it. No doubt that the United States has human rights problems of its own. Organ harvesting, illegal organ harvesting, doctors in the Americas, transplant, Congress condemns, illicit organ harvesting at 2 universities. I mean, the things I'm saying, man, are well-researched, man. Well-researched. Thousands of hours of research, man. I'm not just throwing out there wild allegations to get people all upset. I want, man, I mean, things radically changed in this country as soon as possible, man. And I want the criminals put behind bars. I mean, there's massive, it's an epidemic of illegal organ harvesting, man. People willing to pay extra, you know, richer people willing than most people, even people that are insured, willing to pay big bucks, man, you know, to get an accidental, you know, donor, man. It just happened to, you know, die near enough that their organs just happened to arrive in good shape, right? No, man, they're killing people in the hospitals, harvesting their organs so they can make buku bucks, man, transplanting, you know, from one person, heart, liver, whatever, kidneys, whatever's necessary. And all those transplants amount to large cash for people that are willing to pay. And that's, I'm sorry, man, that there's people that greedy these days, but it's a fact. And I've suffered, man, incredibly from it. These talks about, man, all the signs, man, and stuff, medical terms, glossary terms. When I did a lot of research with the hemochromatosis, hereditary hemochromatosis links, right? Ignorance can be life-threatening. Elevated liver enzymes, common early signs of iron overload. Like I said, I already showed you the lab reports that prove, man, hereditary hemochromatosis. And then furthermore, man, I mean, this guy, you know, didn't know better, but he actually prescribed iron, you know, and it caused, I mean, serious adverse effects to me, man. And just elevated ferritin levels, which I had, you know, and it's linked now, hereditary hemochromatosis now linked to Wilson's. So, I mean, because nobody can look at my lab reports if they're actually any type of, you know, competent laboratory technician and not acknowledge, man, that I've got Wilson's, man. It's shown over and over again, and most definitely they can't, you know, deny that I've got hereditary hemochromatosis. Now they're finding out, man, that it affects as high as 10 to 20% are carriers, man, and now they found that this is linked to Wilson's. Now, Wilson's is only considered like 0.3 to 0.7% or something, right? But now they're finding out that, you know, there's people that have the carrier gene, some 10 to 20% of the population carry at least one gene for hemochromatosis. Well, when they make the connection now that they just made between hereditary hemochromatosis and Wilson's, then when I say that as much as 10% of the global population is affected, I'm not just speaking of bullshit, man. I'm talking about serious research. And they just haven't made the overall announcement yet. And it's cost me, man, dearly, man, because of massive ignorance. Massive ignorance. Remember my lab report from Corral showing, you know, dysfunction possibly of the pituitary and testicular atrophy? You know, remember I just showed you those reports? I'll show you again if you want to see it. Was that it? On the very low side, testosterone test. And where was the indicator for possible pituitary involvement? Low TSH. TSH on the low side, very low side. And they should have done a TRH, man, to rule out, the pituitary issues. What they should have done. The bottom line is, man, it just what I just showed you, man, is my lab reports, man, are confirming that I'm telling the truth. And I already showed you about, again, with regards to hereditary hemochromatosis and Wilson's, hypogonadism, man. In other words, unfortunately, man, your testicles can be smaller than normal for life. Doesn't mean they don't do their job. They still do their trick. High ferritin concentrates, which I showed you, man, the high ferritin levels, and I said remind me in 4 hours. They can tan very easily. They get, freckles and moles real easily. And one of the things for iron overload is you're supposed to donate a bunch of blood, or at least on a regular level. Right? But why would I want to donate my blood when I know I've got these kind of issues, man? See, they can be diagnosed with other serious diseases because their genetic condition was never told them. I mean, it says it right here that there's a problem with, extreme incompetence. Diabetes mellitus develops in about 65% of the patients, more commonly. See? So here you've got a hereditary trait, that they don't tell, and it starts to manifest in other health issues. And they can make all kinds of money on it, man. And they're saying 10 to 20% of the populace, man, are carriers, man. 1 in 10 that were tested, man. It's like 10.4% of African Americans underwent liver biopsy, man. 1.5% during a recent autopsy series, and in 10.4% of African Americans. In other words, this is just the ones they tested, man. And they're finding out that it's, far more common than was once thought. Here I am, I'm trying to alert the public, man. It's cruel that they're not, putting out, a national, man, and as far as I'm concerned, international alert, man. To have people, man, tested, man, because leaving this go, undiagnosed, man, often goes undetected and untreated and can cause permanent organ damage. It's serious. And they're saying 10 to 20%. At the same time, man, just, hardly anybody's ever heard of it. Oh yeah, the Lincoln Benefit Life was the one that I was turned down for life insurance because Correll, man, violated doctor-patient confidentiality. But had it gone through, you know, probably even more people would have tried to join in, man, because I would have had a huge policy on my head. I mean, I can't believe, man, you know, already how many people tried to join in, you know, just over what I already had. Which, man, you got to watch who you marry, man. I can't believe how selfish and greedy some people are, man. They're disgusting, man. This is another place where I had lab work done, you know, and everything negative, man. As far as drugs go. And I've got a bunch of, like I said, lab reports. Where is, yeah. I kept the original series, man, the first one of the x-rays, because they deleted the series on the second copy and all subsequent copies that showed, man, that I was given that incompatible blood transfusion and that I've got undiagnosed, untreated Wilson's. Spying program, oh yeah, this admits to spying on innocent citizens. They think it's perfectly okay. Spying program is okay with most. We have tapes to prove they said so. You know, busting into people's houses and stuff, man. They just think that's perfectly acceptable, including spying, man. Break right into your bedrooms and have agents, man, listening to you screwing your wife. You know, is everybody down with this? Because that's what's going on. You're all right with, you know, other perverts, man. I mean, the most perverted in our society, man, so far of all the scandals, man, have been politicians, law enforcement. I mean, some of the most, I mean, serious hypocrisies and scandals, man, you know, from, I mean, between the, you know, robed, so-called celibate church, man, being pedophiles, too many of them, and homos, too many of them, to the scandals in government and in law enforcement, like the sadomasochistic, you know, scandals in France, I mean, and in this country, along with, you know, the highest incident rate of any profession of domestic violence happens to be law enforcement, you know, along with the highest suicidal rate happens to be, you know, head shrinks, and it's no wonder, man, you know, I mean, after everything they do to other people, man. These are just all the crimes, man, that were committed, man, in violation of U.S. statutes, man, against me, including conspiracy, attempting to, you know, cover up, man, what they've been doing to the public. Just massive corruption. These are all the addresses, man. I mean, when I say I contacted, man, I mean, you know, literally, man, hundreds if not thousands, man. I mean it, you know. I mean, I've got the records to prove it, and this is not like I have not been making my effort, man. This is all like the adverse right here, man. When an adverse transfusion reaction is suspected, the transfusion should be immediately halted, investigation performed, and established procedures of the institutions, right? Should be reported right off the bat, investigated so that they can, you know, determine compatibility and any types of, you know, treatment necessary therefore from that moment. Okay, these are the things that happened, man. You know, I mean, there's just strictly transfusion-associated cardiac overload, man. Pulmonary edema and congestive heart failure. This is what happened to me, man. I mean, it's the blood transfusion, man. They're full of shit. They're lying, man. And I've proven that now. And just the fact that they're lying about that, man, is enough as far as I'm concerned to get their asses arrested, man. You know, I mean, if anybody knows what that means, it means they left me to suffer and to die, man, to not be able to get medical treatment. They were expecting me to be dead by now. Have their whole, you know, attempt on my life completely covered up thereby. These people are guilty of first-degree attempted homicide in the most cruel way. Okay, and to think that, like I said, I've done research on eugenics, man, extensively in this country, man. Leading number of states to pass laws regarding compulsory sterilization. You know, this is the early 1900s and been going on through this country, man, especially during World War II. Eugenics is huge, man. Holocaust grew out of eugenic principles, and it's occurring. Others deemed to be inferior. It's occurring in this country too. Think not, then why the hell did they let doctors and nurses go free for murdering men, you know, Americans with African descent during Katrina? And they still haven't prosecuted them, even though they totally busted by nationally recognized, 5 nationally recognized coroners, man. 70s, involuntary sterilization in mental institutions. You know, so this is pretty recent, the 1970s, and they were doing involuntary sterilization in mental institutions. So when I tell you they're torturing and murdering people in these institutions, and I first-hand witnessed, you know, I mean, heinous crimes being committed right here locally. I'm tired of people, man, rolling their eyeballs at me, man, when this has been, I mean, well documented in this country, man, and unfortunately has not been brought to a stop yet. I mean, it's extensive, man. Extensive, man, documentation, man. And I'm tired of people, man, arguing with me who've done no research, don't have the slightest clue of what they're talking about, just because they don't want to believe that this kind of evil crap goes on in their own country. I've got a recording of population management, quote unquote. Recording. Where is the... I mean, I had a bunch of questions about, you know, my own MRIs. Including the bone marrow aplasia I noted in various places. As well as the giant panda face associated with undiagnosed, untreated Wilson's. I mean, and things like this, the brain is, man, putting pressure, a lot of pressure on the internal membrane between the skull, man. And things like this, man, I mean, could have been somewhat related to the migraines I was complaining of. Here's the hummingbird sign, man, in the mid-sagittal region. I was incorrect earlier about the one photo of the giant panda face and referring to it as the mid-sagittal region, when this is the sign I was meaning to talk about. Was these are associated with, you know, undiagnosed tremors or even seizures, man. And I've been telling them, man, I mean, my muscles have been at times, man, just, I mean, tightening up and knotting or shaking at night, keeping me awake. This whole darker region, man, this is not normal, man. This is indicative of the fact that they gave me an incompatible blood transfusion and it did damage to marrow cells, the blood cells, to the inner membrane of the lining. It could very well explain why I'm having excruciating pain and lupus-like symptoms now. There were some issues, man, that were atypical on the neurological, that were never addressed, man, on my x-rays, man. Atypical situations. These blackened regions are not normal. Requesting transfusion therapy as early, as April of, what was the date on that? In writing even. I did him first in face-to-face with him, and then I wrote a letter, man. Pleading, man. April 28, 2006, man. I've been trying, man, to get treatment, man. The right treatment for incompatible transfusions, man. It's just like when you're given an organ, man, that doesn't belong in your body, man. They're supposed to remove it as soon as possible and try to get you a compatible one. They should have done the same with the blood, man, as soon as I had that severe reaction, man. But no. Damaged target organs, especially bone marrow and the gastrointestinal tract, which I have suffered, man, horribly, man, from transfusion-associated graft versus host disease, man. Exactly what's happened to me, man. I mean, first I had the acute hemolytic response, and then because they were covering up the fact that it was from an incompatible blood transfusion, they let it, evolve into the extravenous, man, complication, which is this. Transfusion-associated graft versus host disease, and it's extremely, absolutely, horribly painful, man. Very, very, very painful. Fatal in over 80% of the cases. And I've been trying to tell them all along, man. I can't get any competent help, man. So, man, I've studied, man, transfusion reactions. It's what was done to me. Oh, yeah, man. Then they didn't believe the government was involved, but I've got beetles that aren't even typical for the Idaho region, man, crawling around inside my home suddenly, and had these, fiber optic, cameras, man, coming out of their torsos that I happen to recognize because I watched the Science Channel so much that was what was going on. And I put a microscopic camera on these things, and I've got on my website, man, on blastthetrumpet.org, images under the microscope of the fiber optic coming out of this beetle, man. So it's not natural, man. It's man-made, and it's obvious when you look on the website. I've been telling the truth, man. I know it's hard for people to believe, man. I mean, the government, man, doesn't want people, knowing that, frankly, man, they're, doing shitty things to their own citizens, man. And covering up doctors and nurses that are actually, having to the tune of like 1 million Americans die every year. You don't tell me, man. I mean, let's just say that if it is accidental, then we have an epidemic of incompetence so severe that these people should be permanently banned from practicing medicine. Seriously. But if you really think that people that went through med school, man, are that retarded, man, that they make that many mistakes every year, well then, I think you're way too naive, man. Especially when they were busted, like I said already, man, and nobody arrested them. So, I mean, I've been suffering horribly, man, on account of people's just willful, belief that people don't do these things, regardless of the evidence, all evidence to the contrary. And I mean, it doesn't matter how many times I've gone trying all the time, man, to get... I'm not a drug user. I'm not dying from HIV. I've been faithful, man, the whole time I've been married. Yeah, dead drum on this argument here. Go back to the outline, stay on track, and try to get through this. I mean, frankly, I mean, just recapping so far what I've shown, man. I've shown, man, that doctors at Deacon as a whole group, man, a pulmonologist, man, an anesthesiologist, and a surgeon, man, outrightly, not to mention all their assistants and nurses, outrightly lied, man. All three of them lied, man. That alone, man. Why, if it was an accident, only an accident, did they lie? Why couldn't they have just, been honest enough to say, the guy was accidentally given, a transfusion, and this is what we did to try to, straighten him out? If they don't have guilty consciences that what they did was intentional to me, right? If you don't believe that I'm telling the truth, that they planned this whole thing, man, to harvest my organs, man, and also what I'm telling you about the fact that they discovered, man, my wife had been poisoning me, instead of arresting her, man, we're so damn greedy, you decided to partner with her for part of the life insurance. If you don't believe what God showed me, if you don't believe, how that I got, documentation of spontaneous bruising, heavy-duty bleeding that wouldn't stop. Serious, documentations of my digestive system being adversely affected, and so on and so forth. Prior to all of this taking place, if you don't think that I've actually got, hair samples from the time period in question that I kept because I was hoping beyond all hope that I might actually find some competent and caring law enforcement to not leave, a psychopath out on the streets like the person I married, man, to brutally torture and do this to somebody else, man. That I have a little bit of a conscience, man, and I can't even, until the day I die, man, give this up. I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to die trying. That's how much I'm suffering. That I can't live with myself to let this happen to nobody else without my best effort. Man, this is outrageous, man, what's happened, man. And the cops, man, so damn corrupt, they'd rather, nobody understands, man. When I prayed to God, why were the cops, man, now screwing my wife? And I knew it was more than one, but I didn't know the whole thing. And God showed me that I'm seeing, like, half the department in her house at one time and stuff. Like a dozen, cops at one time. I've seen all their faces. I could pick them out of a photo lineup. It's like watching a video, and they're like, a bunch of them, doing their thing all at once to her, and like sitting there, this is fun, Then just, I went to them, man, to stop mass murderers, and they're like, aware that one of them was my wife, and instead of arresting her, they blackmail her for sex acts, and this is fun. And I had to watch that. If you don't think this kind of thing's going on, man, there was a private investigator recently in this area, man, that, busted all kinds of major players in this area, man. Cops, doctors, big money real estate interests. Having massive, unspeakable orgies, man. Leaving their little kids in cars and stuff so they could go and screw whatever. And this is undercover private investigators, man, photographed, man, and documented this stuff going on. There's major sex scandals going on up here, people losing their minds and not behaving properly, and it's causing massive corruption, man. To the point where murderers are being let loose just because cops can't control their gonads, right? And a lot of these cops, man, were married, man. So it's like, what's really happened is higher up governing agents, this is what the Lord showed me, that were seeing this whole thing go down because they were spying on me over all this other crap, right? Saw all this happening, and instead of arresting these people, man, they deemed, because some of them had families with kids and so on and so forth, that they'd rather, let one ex-convict suffer unbelievable hell on earth, man, and ask them never to do this kind of stuff to nobody else, swear to it and stuff, rather than like leave, some wives and children, man, fatherless because, of busting all of them, putting them in prison, man. And not to mention the fact that, the last thing this nation needs when it's trying to become a totalitarian police state is yet another unbelievable, serious violation of public trust and scandal in law enforcement and abuse of the Patriot Act, and the fact that they used, not only surveillance to, get these, officers notified when I would do my best to try to get photographs, of them screwing my wife to prove that there was collusion going on and conspiracy and leaving murders go free and trying to keep me from losing my estate because I was fighting for my life and I needed the money if I ever could find anybody to give me competent medical care to be able to pay them. On and on and on, man. Massive corruption and massive abuse of authority, collusion and conspiracy to cover up all of the scumminess, man, that's going on in our government right now. Man, that certain departments across this nation have already been exposed, man, but it's not just there. It's not just in the big cities, man. It's spreading across this country as people are losing their minds, are losing the ability to have any self-temperance or integrity. And why? Because now for over 60 years, especially the last 2 generations of young adults, have been brainwashed in our public schools into thinking they evolved from monkeys and they're acting like it. And that's the bottom line truth, man. They've lost their ability to maintain any type of honor and integrity because there's no true knowledge anymore being taught in our schools. Of having their heads crammed full of religious crap, man. Unsubstantiated, completely. And that's the bottom line why we've got an epidemic now of poor services, of corruption, of bribe takers, of cops, man, accepting money to let drugs. And I'm not saying all of them. I'm not down on all cops. Thank God for the men and women of integrity, man. Praise God. But I'm saying there apparently isn't enough to arrest the last administration for some of the greatest acts of high treason this country's ever seen. It apparently isn't enough, man, to arrest the massive corruption in the precincts across this country, that have been exposed to, man, and time again. And look at all the unsolved crimes, man. A lot of sex crimes, a lot of, young women disappearing nowadays into actually what amounts to the slave trade, where they take, blonde young girls and stuff and, ship them to the Mideast or to Japan or anywhere else, man. There's slave trade going in Europe. There's slave trade going in this country. The missing persons, man, in America, man, has reached epidemic levels. And why do you think these things go unsolved? I'm telling you straight up, man, it's corruption within law enforcement, man. Most of the serious crimes, man, that go unsolved are because it's being done by people that are supposed to be serving to protect us. And that's the hard truth of it. I remember watching a story recently where this Christian mother, man, her daughter was brutally raped in this house, and somehow I think I don't know if it was the father or if it was an uncle, but he found, that she was in this house, man, being brutalized, and he's calling the cops, and he's right there, and he's saying, man, this is dangerous, man. Can you get over here right away, man? My daughter's being kidnapped and raped and so on and so forth, something like that. And at any rate, and the cops just never showed up, man. So this guy had to take him on all by himself, and apparently, finally, man, the kidnapped young lady was discovered at a convenience store when they were looking for, due to this extremely slow response, right, by the brother. And what was happening was, what was revealed to me was the reason why so few of these individuals, man, actually none of them got busted, was because some of them were cops, man, and they just don't want the scandals, man. They don't want the, how do you say, the light, man, of truth, man, shining on the fact that, what's going on nowadays is major corruption and major abuse of power and authority, man, and preying upon innocent citizens. So do not turn in your weapons at this time until our president has enough, courage and integrity, man, to say to police chiefs across this, mayors, governors, and police chiefs across this country, that unless you clean up the serious corruption right now going on at epidemic levels within your own precincts, that they should go to prison as well. Man, there has got to be a at this point, major exposure and major arrests of all the corruption going on in uniform, or as far as I'm concerned, we don't know who we can trust. Arm yourselves. Never let policemen in your house under any circumstances. I'm serious. protect you and your loved ones. You don't know that those people are not armed gangs of rapists, robbers, and murderers. At this point, the corruption has gotten to a point where it's such an epidemic high level that your life could be in serious danger from these persons, man. If they announce themselves as police, frankly, at this point, I'm like, so? I mean, is that supposed to, like, reassure me? Or am I supposed to be in fear for my life? I mean, that's how bad the corruption's gotten. Unless decent law enforcement in this country start arresting the criminals in their own precincts, man, unless there's massive cleanup in this country, we are in a very dangerous situation now. Seriously. I mean, when cops in New York shoot an unarmed citizen 50 times, man, cold-blooded murder, man, and they all get acquitted, man. And you know why they got acquitted? Because even a judge, man's terrified of the fact that they've got that much of a gang of just murderers, man, outright murderers running loose. So they have to, like, pretend like, you know, they didn't do anything wrong. We have a major problem in this country with outrageous abuse of authority at this point, man, and it's life-threatening. You know, do not give up your weapons at this time, man. There's too much corruption within government at this stage, and the higher authorities are not doing anything about it. I mean, at this point, I've shown you evidence, man, that I have made extreme efforts over these years to get these people locked up where they belong. We cannot have psychopaths running loose that think it's okay to poison their husbands and then screw the cops to get away with it. You know, we can't have mass murdering doctors thinking it's okay to kill people for their organs or just because they're sick, man, and think that there's no way that the public's ever going to bust them because they're hide behind their frock, you know, letters after their name and the people that they actually, you know, do decent enough to so they can get at least a few testifying that they're seemingly good people. Most psychopaths have a very dual personality life. They have this, like, facade they put on, so they treat enough people decently. They do enough good things, man, so that they have plausible deniability of all the other things they're doing. That's how these people get away with this, man. I mean, think of how many times they've busted mass murderers where the neighbors were like, wow, he seemed like kind of a normal guy and stuff. It didn't seem like there was anything wrong. Like, they couldn't believe it. And it's because of that, you know, that duality, man, that the cleverest ones of them, man, hide behind a facade of, like, what do they call it? Some form of Munchausen's or something, where they save lives, they kill somebody to save others, right? So in harvesting organs, they justify it and get rich in the process, man, from, you know, doing all the transplants. So it's like, here it is, you know, my wife hated me enough to, you know, to murder me for the life insurance and for the estate. So they're figuring, you know, this guy, man, he doesn't have, you know, any close family, he doesn't have any kids, and it's like his own wife's trying to kill him. And then they're figuring, well, hell, man, we've got, you know, other people saying, Doc, man, money's no object, man, get my wife or my husband a heart, or get my wife or my husband a lung, or get my wife or husband, money's no object, Doc, man, you know, please, man, save her, save him, right? So then they're thinking, well, heck, you know, we can save people that actually love one another. You know, this guy must have done something to, just like people want to think that when people are raped or brutally treated, that somehow it was the victim's fault. You know, there wasn't, you know, the responsibility of the perpetrator. So for them, they're like, what did they say to her? Oh, he's probably a real asshole, right? He probably abuses you. He's probably real assaultive. And she's like, you don't know. Yeah, real abusive. Give her every paycheck I make. I mean, slave when I'm, like, deathly ill, man, for a 10th anniversary present of jewelry that cost thousands of dollars, custom designed. Yeah, man, totally abused, man. I mean, basically giving up anything I wanted, man, just to get her whatever she wanted, tens of thousands of dollars in horses and trailers and tack and just whatever she, you know, was her ambition or dream, man. I mean, I had to ask if I could buy myself a $40 computer game, which was so sad that I actually had, by the time, you know, a few years had gone by, about 20 or so of these $40 computer games. Well, I was making like 6 figures a year. I spent maybe about $800 on computer games or something like this that I never even had the time to play. That were still in wrappers, man. I mean, that's how hard I was working. And it's like, you know, I know that it's sad, man. But the point being is, she was not abused ever, man. Not in the least, man. You know, quite the contrary and quite the other way around, man. So the bottom line is, man, what these people did to me was outrageous, man. And what she did is the worst, man. And if people really knew the entire list of everything she did to me, man, I am certain they would conclude that absolutely it was one of the worst personal, infamous, injury cases in the entire history of the known world, man. And I'm not exaggerating, man. This person was unbelievably cruel, man. No measurement. I mean, I've watched some of the most heinous female perpetrators in some of the most heinous domestic cases ever, man. And the list of what this person did to me, man, actually would top all of them. At any rate, I don't want to go on and on. I just don't want this person loose to do it to nobody else, man. I mean, she has smugly boasted to my face about screwing like some 24 cops, man, and getting away with everything she's done to me, including defrauding me out of the better part of my state, years of my life, man. To my face, man. She's proud of what she did. She's not repentant in the least, man. She's overjoyed, man, that people, man, have systematically, she thinks it's funny. They systematically disbelieve me. I'm a minister. I've got medical evidence. I've got scientific evidence. And I'm telling the truth, and people have still, man, disbelieved me. And still, I mean, instead of arresting her, man, had orgies with her, man. A serious psychopath, man. I mean, it is disgusting, man, that we've got this much corruption in our country now, man. It's horrible, man. Mentally, man, psychologically for me, I mean, I have to plead with this country to return to God, man, because, I mean, what's happened to me, man, is so terrible, man. I can't come up with any other, explanation or excuse, man, for why people are being, this, man, outrageous, man. So I've already shown, man, the staff of Deaconess, man, I'm telling you, planned to murder me. And the way I'm telling you that they planned to murder me is they altered, man, my transfusion permission form. So they planned on giving me the transfusion before I even, and they were upset that I wrote O positive on it, man. So they were planning on giving me an incompatible blood transfusion, man, before I ever went into surgery. And then they did it. Then, when it failed, in other words, when I first coded, man, what the Lord revealed to me was that somebody that wasn't involved heard the alarm going off that was in the hallway and came in and was like, responding, and so they had to give me an epinephrine shot or atropine or whatever to start my heart up again. They had to resuscitate me. So what did they do? They resuscitated me, put the intubation tube back down my throat, which goes, through your vocal cords, so you cannot scream for help, man, no matter how bad you'd want to. You can't talk. And they tied my wrists, my hands, man, to the metal rails of the gurney and my feet. And then they shut the machine off on purpose. Yes, they did, man. There was a male nurse standing right next to my left-hand side, right here, man, looking right at me. And I could pick that guy to this day out of a photo. I'll never forget his sneering, laughing face, man, as long as I live, man. I mean, I could pick that guy out. I know I could. Now, the woman nurse was smart, man. She never, turned to look at me. Okay? But I could see her body type and hear her voice. And she was saying when they shut the machines off and the foam started coming out of my mouth and I started banging on the rails because I was thinking, perhaps they didn't know what the hell they were doing, right? Couldn't tell I was suffocating or something, right? And it's like, and so the nurse is like, acting like a wild man, won't save you now. And the male nurse right here, I look over up at him, and he starts laughing, man, as, bloody foam and phlegm and spew is coming out of my mouth, man, and I was suffocating to death a second time. And I'm telling you, man, these people are sick, man, and they are loose. They're mass murderers. They're not just murderers. They think it's funny to kill people, man. And they're loose in our society, man. Yes, they are. I'm not making this up. And the only reason why I'm still here is because I once again, at that point in time, man, committed the keeping of my soul and my spirit into the hands of the good Lord, and He revealed to me that it happened a second time, that somebody, when I coded again, man, happened to heard, the alarm go off just in time, came running in the door, and they had to resuscitate me a second time. That The second time it happened, man, the nurses that came down the hall realized that it happened twice, and this person, like, basically almost stood guard, God bless her, stood guard, man. I mean, making sure they wouldn't try a third time. So, during this whole time when I'm, coded and in critical care and everything, I'm wondering, where's the so-called love of my life, right? And this is, again, this revelation about Jane's participation in this whole thing all happened after, I mean, all the initial contacts with police about just telling about what I remembered about the doctors. At that point in time, I didn't remember about her threats. I didn't remember even what led up to the hospital incidents. I was still suffering from partial amnesia. I'm telling the truth. I'm not making this up. I know it sounds like, yeah, dude, right. But this is what happened, man. For 2 years, I didn't remember the events at the hospital in the detail I did. And I woke up one day remembering clearly, man, and concisely. I'd been taking a bunch of, mental supplements, man, to try to regain my cognitive ability, man, to try to be able to get out of my bed and function and stuff. I mean, I was really sick, man. Really sick. As far as I was concerned, I was dying, man, and nobody was telling me why. And I couldn't remember the transfusion or any of that. When I finally remembered everything, the nurse giving me, waking up, after the first, surgery, and seeing the nurse squeezing the, the blood bag, and her telling me it's the final of 3 units of O negative, I'm thinking to myself, and then immediately, man, I went into anaphylactic shock, man, and acute hemolytic response where my lungs filled up with fluid, suffocated, I went unconscious, man, and waking up, during that whole time with doctors saying, hold him down, and put him out, waking up, man, because, I couldn't breathe with the intubation tube down my throat and everything. I was trying to yank it out. Then they tied me down, man, and they did it to me a second time. I'm not making this up, man. I will not rest, man. I will either succeed, man, in making sure others are safe from the likes of these mass-murdering psychopaths, man, or I will die trying. I will not give up. I don't care how many times they want to sue me, claiming that they're all innocent, and then I'm like, whatever, man, slandering them or libeling them or whatever. I'll take any polygraph, and I've got enough evidence, man, showing that these people are lying, man. They belong behind bars. I will not give up. I will not cease. I can't live with a clear conscience knowing these people are still loose for years now, despite my best efforts, man, because people just systematically, man, have not looked at the evidence, man. They just automatically, man, shut off my testimony before I ever get through it. And I still haven't gone into all the evidence. I've shown you enough, though, man. I've shown you enough already, man, to arrest these people. I'm showing you, man, that when if you ask medical experts, when they lied about what they did to me, that they sent me home to die, man, to die. That alone, man, even if you don't believe what I'm telling you about everything else that happened there, that I proved that they gave me an incompatible blood transfusion and that they've lied about it, and by lying about it denied me medical treatment I needed and sent me home to die, man, to suffer and die. And that systematically, as a result, every hospital I've went to try to get treatment, every hospital I've went to try to get, even pain medication or doctors and stuff, has systematically participated in the cover-up. Some of them would, like I said, Bergstaller, man, look like the cartoon with dollar signs went off in his eyes when I told him what these people did to me. And I know, man, he probably got on the phone and was like, hey, man, you never guess what a patient told me today. And then he systematically said about slandering and libeling me, man. He's not a shrink. He's not a psychiatrist. He's not a psychologist. He doesn't have any degrees in that area, and yet he, in his own medical reports, man, called me mentally ill before I'd ever even been evaluated by those so-called psycho-quack wannabes at NIBH. I don't care, man. They have attacked me, man, on a far worse level, man, than the terms that they most have definitely earned, man, in their outright abuse, man, of their and ignorance, man, and incompetence and outright criminal behavior, man. I suppose I should rein it in, but like I said, man, to my ex, man, and to the cops as well, and to all the people that have done this to me, man, and including the people that have watched this all go down and not arrested these people, man. That if the worst thing you get from me is a tongue lashing, man, you should count your blessings, man. Seriously, man. You should thank God, man, that for some reason He hasn't healed me, man. I don't have the strength, even if I wanted to try to protect people the hard way if I had to, man. This is all I can do, man. It's the best I can do. Is to, do my best to prove to the people that have the authority, man, that have the badges, that have the guns, that have the weapons, man, that there is corruption, man, and in the worst kind and the worst danger for you. That when there's people wearing the same kind of uniform you are, who are honorably trying to uphold and enforce the law, that are the worst criminals, man, it makes it impossible for us as citizens, man, to distinguish which one of you are the real criminals, man, or which one of you are actually the real honest men and women of integrity, man, that we can trust in. Which means that your life is in the greatest danger, not by gangs, not by people that are in the public that have lost their minds. The greatest danger to your lives is in the fact that you are covering and not believing, man, us when we testify, telling you that within your own ranks, man, you have got criminals of the worst kind, and we are pleading with you to arrest them for your sakes. Because how are we to distinguish if we feel we've got to defend ourselves, man, from massive corruption in government that is threatening our lives, and we have to maybe take up arms? How are we going to be able to distinguish that you happen to be somebody that would actually have been on our side, in honor and integrity, if you will not police among yourselves and arrest the criminals when we come forward and say who they are? I'm telling you for a fact, I know Officer Lehman and Nags are involved in serious conspiracy, and even Nags especially, helped my ex, man, get away with all these crimes, was screwing her prolifically, and was plotting, man, to take over years of my hard work, man. Enabled her to defraud me out of the better part of my estate in exchange for sex, not arresting her. Megson, man, guilty of numerous felonies and other felonies by conspiracy. Lehman and another officer, whoever his partner was at the start, I saw clearly, man, he came over to my place when my now ex and I, were separated but still married, and he was asking me where she was, and then right when he was standing there in front of me, in front of my own eyeballs, this isn't a revelation, he's like, he got a phone call, no, it's not a phone call, but a call in on his walkie or whatever, and saying that we found her, man, and immediately made a beeline for my wife's new place, and then threatened, man, to do me bodily harm, namely to kill me if she didn't give him and this other officer sex. And she responded, now there's no need for that. Come on in, boys. That's the type of disgusting, just epidemic of disgusting people, man, unfortunately I have ran into, man, in my lifetime, man. Just an epidemic of like the worst kind of, characters, man. So I don't even know what you call it, man. When officers, man, in exchange for sex acts, let murderers go free or threaten to do bodily harm to innocent persons, man, in order to get sex. I think that's rape. I think that if they're using, man, their positions to get sex instead of arresting criminals, I see that as sex offenders myself, man. I wouldn't trust them, man, anywhere near if I had an actual family or children. So, Lehman, Nags, Bert, man. This guy with the sample, he's got this huge head and red hair. I think he's got like, I don't know, maybe 2 daughters or something. He's got a wife with a pretty high forehead, blonde hair, because he wears it up or something. Guy drives a Dodge truck. I know that guy's involved. I know they were lying to their wives, man, telling them they were going to church, And I can pick out, I don't know all the names of all of them, but I know their faces. I can pick them out of a photo lineup, man. You know, he's showing the pictures of the cops, man, of Sandpoint and Bonner County, and I can pick them up. That one, that one, that one, that one. And I guarantee, man, if there was an internal affairs investigation, unless there was a cover-up, a massive cover-up at that, they will not be able to pass a lie detector test saying they did not have sex with her. They had group sex, man, not just sex one or two at a time, man. This is massive corruption, man. This is dangerous corruption. And they're just guilty of that, man. I ran into people that testified that, man, the cops, man, I mean, had friends like literally guilty of, man, beating a guy, man, so severely, man, that he ended up in the hospital, and it was questionable whether or not the guy would even live. Right? So, you know, aggravated assaults, man, leaving their buddies go free from felony aggravated assaults, taking payoffs to leave the largest meth dealers in the Hoodoo Valley and pretty much the whole Northwest, man, go free. There's massive corruption up here, man. Massive. Now, I'm not saying necessarily in Coeur d'Alene. I think a lot of the cops within Coeur d'Alene region and stuff, frankly, and I know there's decent cops up in Sandpoint and Bonner County as well, but when she boasts of 24 of them, you know, being corrupt, I believe her, man. When she smugly announced there's no way I could do anything about it because so many cops had screwed her. And then the fact that, you know, even though I'm showing you the doctors have lied, you know, lied outrightly, and I know people would want to just think, well, they're lying because they just didn't want a malpractice suit. That's the most logical thing to come to when you're confronted with the evidence that they have, all three of them and nurses actually lied about. But the bottom line is what you fail to understand is the method of what they did to me was to send me home, and by lying about it, leave me in excruciating agony, undiagnosed, and I've already read to you that has an over 80%, man, death rate, man. In other words, man, they sent me home to die. These people are guilty, man, of premeditated attempted homicide on my life, and I may still yet die from what they did to me. I'm in excruciating pain every day. I've been fighting for my life now it's going on years. I mean, every day I don't know if I'm going to wake up. I understand why people think I'm nuts, but when I show you the evidence that I'm telling the truth, then I really get angry, man. Really angry. Then I showed you that right here, man, you know, in their own words, man, that with the evidence of the fact that I had liver hepatic issues, man, I showed you the lab reports, man, that these so-called, shrinks, man, or psychiatrists or whatever the hell you want to call them, I call them psycho quacks. Frankly, because they're so damn brainwashed and some of them so damn sadistic, man, they deserve it, man. They're psychopaths. They're not doctors. They're evil, man. And some of them are just so damn ignorant, man. They're life-threateningly dangerous. I mean, when anybody, I don't care who I don't care if they're a doctor, I don't care if they're president of the United States, I don't care if they're military, I don't care if they're somebody on the street. If they think it's okay to give somebody permanent brain-damaging substances, I don't care who the hell they are, there is something wrong with them. They're sick, man. Sick. And these people are loose. They go to their 9-to-5 jobs and do this to people on a regular basis. Have you ever seen people, you know, on Thorazine, the Thorazine shuffle? Can barely move their limbs. So many brain cells, man, have been completely annihilated over what they've done to them. People go in there, man, maybe sad or a little depressed. Maybe they are suicidal. Maybe they had something really tragic happen, like maybe they were abused by other sadistic people just like I've met. And they couldn't handle it. They didn't know God or have the strength that only God can give to endure this kind of shit. So they end up going, you know, for help, and what ends up happening to them is they end up getting brain damage or dead as a form of medical treatment. I'm serious. I don't care who a person is. if they think that giving these types of drugs, toxins, medications, poisons to other people is acceptable behavior, then I say let us prove that is done with a clear conscience by saying, okay, doc, okay, psycho quack, you take the shit you think is okay for these other people and let us document what happens to you. If they won't do it, put them behind bars. Lock them up. They know what the hell they're doing to people. Nobody, man, is that retarded they can't see with their own eyes, man, the evil they're doing to these people, man. They are killing people. They're not just doing brain damage. They're not just doing organ damage. They're not just costing people years of their life. They're not just doing people worse than if they've been beaten up with bats, man. I mean, serious aggravated assault on their persons, man, by forcing harmful toxins, man, absolute poison into their bodies, man. I've showed you that they think that that's acceptable behavior, man. Who's a real threat to society, man? FDA approving, man, toxins so harmful they do permanent brain damage. Permanent. They kill people. This is well documented now in this country, man. And people all think that it's all accidental because they're too ignorant to know better. Instead of the truth of the matter, when you start to weigh it all together, when you start to look at my evidence, that I actually got a recording that says it's a form of population management. What's the worst thing that you can think? That I somehow tricked my voice and made the recording myself? Or that I had somebody make a sick recording like that? Why would I have left the phone number? Why would I have left the voice sample? Why would I be asking, man, for a thorough investigation on if I was just involved in some hoax? No, man. I am telling the truth. And I'm deeply concerned, man, about the fate of this nation in the next few years if this is not brought to a halt right now, and for the American people to come out of their wishful snow globe worlds of how they'd like things to be and actually take a look at how things really are and try to make things like that. Because I know my brothers and sisters in the faith are just so kind and so decent and so, necessarily naive in their own thoughts to make themselves feel safe and secure, that they just don't want to believe, man, that our country is in this terrible a shape at this point in time, man. After only 5 or 6 decades of not teaching about God in our public schools, about removing prayer in our public schools, that we're already in a state, man, of pre-Nazi Germany, man, of the last Holocaust, of eugenic fascism, of the lies of evolution that brought that country nearly to its eradication. And unfortunately, we've gone down the same path. So I get there, right? I go to Deaconess. This is during the pre-screening before surgery. And I wrote on the transfusion permission. I know I'm being repetitive. This is important. You cannot find that original transfusion permission form, even though other original transfusion permission forms exist all over the whole nation. All that they have now is a copy of a copy of a copy as an attempt to cover up the fact that they had this temp man use whiteout and blot out everything I'd written on it. I should have demanded the copy that day. I asked for it, and then the nurse got up and went behind one of those partitions, and I could hear her whispering. It's like, what do we do, man? He's asking for a copy. And I could hear a quiet, muttered voice. So she was talking to somebody. It was all, alarmed that I'd written on the transfusion permission form for one, and two, that I was asking for a copy. So with premeditation, they did this, man. Absolutely. And that altered form proves it. Not to mention the fact that even if you don't believe any of that, and anything about the second time, about the guy laughing, about the psychopath man that I could pick out of a photo lineup, and even if you don't believe me about them, that it's an actual, event that took place, man, it's horrible, man. And you need to believe the fact that these people sent me home, with something that causes 80% or more, man, people to die. And that's enough to put them behind bars. And frankly, once, you start arresting these people properly, I hope and pray, that you'll find out that what I'm telling you about my ex, man, and all the rest of it is all absolutely, positively true, man. Factually, objectively true. They were upset when I didn't want to sign the organ donor form, man. I mean, they brought that to me like getting ready to anesthetize me, man, and they're like, "Oh man, here, sign this." And I'm like, "What the hell are they having me sign an organ donor form, man, right before they're about to put me in surgery, Why didn't that go with the pre-screening process or something? I mean, talk about making a guy uneasy. I'm like, I thought you said this was like, minor routine surgery, man, tonsillectomy, septoplasty. I thought this happens like all the time, man. They're like, well, you never know, man. I mean, sometimes accidents happen. Man, they murdered people, man, for their organs, man. Doctors Cruz and Joy conspired with my now ex-wife to cover up the fact that they knew she had tried to murder me with decon rat poison. They did tox screens, man, for blood compatibility, man. That's a routine thing, before surgery, man. In case you do need the transfusion. So they knew, man, I had antibodies against the negative Rh factor. So when I wrote on the transfusion permission form, no O-negative blood, man, it concerned them. Because they were planning to murder me just in that way. Because then they could claim that, well, how are we to know it was an accident, or that it didn't come out in the lab test when it does. They didn't know I used to be a medical lab tech, man. They didn't know I had enough ammunition, man, to put these suckers, man, away. They've been getting away with it because most people, man, don't have enough medical knowledge, man, in order to, bring this, the ways that they're getting away with homicides, man, to the public attention. And I told you, man, how they, during that time when I was signing the transfusion permission form, they dragged my wife away privately, which really, actually, I felt was like, what the hell, man? Why is the surgeon and the anesthesiologist, wanting to talk to my wife when I'm the one going into surgery, right? Talking to her separately and privately. Well, the Lord showed me. That's when they confronted her, man, about the fact that they had busted her during the tox screens, man. Somebody, man, some lab tech out there, somebody out there somewhere knows, man, that, there was somebody that had blood work done that had decon rat poison, or poison, man, in their blood in May of 2004 during pre-screening tests, man. I'm asking that person to come forward. I'm asking the lab tech from St. Joseph's in 1988, September of 88, when I was shot in the head by the police, that warned me, man, never to get O-negative blood, to come forward, that suspected I had Wilson's, man, and warned me, man. I mean, you're the only, seriously, out of like numerous lab tech professionals, man, you were right, I mean, but I've gone to big cities. You were the only one, man, that knew, enough about Wilson's, man, and enough about the blood, out of all these people, and this is going on years now. I have, great respect. That you had enough integrity, man, to warn me, even though I'd obviously just been shot by police. But you didn't disdain, man, the fact that, I was obviously on the receiving end of the wrong end of the law. But you still had enough integrity. God bless you. I tried to fly straight, man, afterwards, man. I'm not saying I was perfect, man. I acknowledge, man, I'm ashamed, man, of the many mistakes I made in my ignorance, man. search for truth. But this is the only knowledgeable, man, hematologist or medical laboratory technician, man, that I've met, man, in my whole life. I mean, even though I was trained, right? Even where I was trained, man, when they were, even professors, man, that were training me in the military, when I showed them that my blood, man, was not like, the slides with the Rouleau formation, they even said that that was normal. And I'm telling you, Rouleau formation is not normal. That is one of the indicators of Wilson's, man. Chained RBCs, man, I mean, it's not only indicative, man, of the presence of viruses, maybe undiagnosed viruses, but it's indicative also of Wilson's. One of the indicators. So all an investigator has to do is find out who was the intern that gave me the blood, man. She was young. At the time she was blonde. I don't hope any hardship to her, whatever, man. I know she was ordered by either Dr. Cruz or Dr. Joy, or both of them, to give me the transfusion, even though I didn't need it. Because, like I said, it was done on purpose, man, to murder me. So I hope she'll come forward, man. I pray that she has the courage, man, because we cannot have mass murderers like these people, man, that are so arrogant, man. They just think they can get away with doing this again and again, and actually have. And I'm doing everything I can to make sure, man. I mean, who knows how many other people would be murdered this way, man. It's horrible, man. I'm serious, man. I mean, it's far more merciful to shoot somebody, man, in the head or in the heart, or, kill them off like that, man. This is horrible, man. I can't think of torture, man, even in the Dark Ages, that you could live this long and suffer this much. I'm serious, man. Most tortures, man, I mean, even the ones where they were working real hard at keeping you alive, you didn't survive for a month or so. It's going on years, man. Sometimes pain is so great, man. Literally, man, I'm tempted at times, man, to try to inflict some other injury or something just to try to distract my brain from the pain. It's horrible, man. I mean, I'm suffering, man. I'm so thankful, man, when I get so exhausted I can actually sleep. And I hate it that most of the time what wakes me up is I need to go to the restroom. As soon as I wake up conscious once again of pain, man, instantly, man. Every waking moment, man. And most of the time, right, it's been going on so years that even though it's so intense, man, I can deal. But there's times, man, when it gets, so bad, man. Again, there's no way I can express the intensity. When they say, how does it rate from 1 to 10, and I'm like, if I were to say, well, because, it's been beyond 10, man, for so long, I suppose I could call it a 7, during my best days, But there's moments, man, when it's beyond 10, even the beyond 10s that were in the past. I mean, literally to the point, man, where even though I am against, man, physician-assisted suicide, that if I can't get the transfusion, therapy I'm requesting, and if I can't get pain medication that will make this, somewhat manageable, I mean, even if I'm so weak I can't walk, but at least manage the pain, then, I mean, I hate to say it, man, but I'm to a point, man, where I'm tempted, maybe, at this point at times, and, unfortunately I find myself, even though I never thought I would consider, man, especially after Christ, that I just can't take it. And I want to accomplish a lot still in my life. A lot of good goals, man. They weren't just selfish, man. They were, I think they were good goals to help people. But I'm serious, man, that at times, man, I think, man, that I know you know, that morphine, an overdose of morphine. I mean, if I had an IV in my arm and, I don't know, something like 1,000 milligrams of pharmaceutical grade, I mean, something that you know would just shut down your nervous system and you just go to sleep, you know. And then maybe, you know, just to make sure, man, a heart stopper or something, man. I mean, I'm against physician-assisted suicide, and I've told you why. Because it's so easy for even a decent person in their mind to cross over that if somebody comes in that's in excruciating pain, wants to live, you know, they might think that there's nothing they can do for them because they just don't know better, even though there might be something that could be done, you know. But not all physicians know everything there is to know about medical care. So somebody could come in that they think that is hopeless. And they think there's nothing they can do about this person except manage the pain or put them down. And so they might think it's like, you know, compassionate, you know, and then end up euthanizing somebody that wanted to live. You know. So at this point, I'm asking at least for the shot of what I believe, even though I know other people don't understand how transfusion therapy, compatible transfusion therapy could help me. I know it could. And at this point, if I'm wrong, you know, and it causes another acute hemolytic response and I suffocate, man, I'm saying publicly, man, do not resuscitate me. You know? God will reveal, you know, to others, or somehow, man, things will still be all right, man, with the body of Christ and His Spirit. You know? I can't, I mean, I'm literally, man, I'm at this point, man, where I don't understand why God lets people suffer this much, man. And I've been actually, for years, I've been asking Him, man. I mean, I know suffering is a result of the evil people do on this planet, but what I'm not understanding, man, is that I've seen His supernatural power, man, heal so many people, man. I mean, AIDS, man. I remember one time I prayed, man, and early on, remember I prayed that God would cause me to pray what He wanted me to pray, so I knew it was His will. And it's like, so He caused me to pray this prayer about that, you know, everybody was saying, you know, that AIDS was incurable and all this and that. And so I was saying, you know, God, man, heal people that were about to die from AIDS, that have extensive documentation that they were HIV positive and almost, you know, dead. Heal them, and in such a way, man, that it makes like front page news of the papers, man. And I prayed that prayer, and I kept the articles that happened. I can't remember if it was a few months later or a year later or what, but I remembered somehow, you know, I still don't remember even how I got, because I never got a subscription to the paper, but I remember it made the front page news of the Arizona Republic and the Phoenix Gazette that 2 men that were dying from AIDS, man, advanced, man. I mean, were close to death, were completely cured and didn't even have the carrier virus anymore. And they said, in quotes, man, the disease is not AIDS. The disease is separation from God. You know? It made front page news, man. Front page, man. Confirmed miracles, man, by the divine. I hear people all the time say, and how come there's no confirmed medical miracles and stuff? And it's like, baloney, man. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of them. There's literally millions of miracles, man, that happen all over the world all the time. But there's thousands of medically documented in secular media, in secular science, and secular medical records. You just have to know where to look, man. And it ain't that hard because I prayed, man, and it's on front page news. At any rate, the first incident of attempted homicide wasn't enough to do the trick, like I said. So they tied me down on guard. He stuck an intubation tube down my throat, intentionally shut the breathing machine off, so I suffocated to death a second time. Cardiac arrest twice, brought on by acute hemolytic transfusion reaction, which causes your immune system to attack the incompatible blood, fill your lungs with fluid, pulmonary edema, so the victim suffocates on their own bodily fluids and goes into cardiac arrest. This is what was done to me. The smoking gun, I already showed you, man. The deaconess and the staff denied they even gave me a transfusion. and prescribing Norco and prednisone, which is typical for an acute hemolytic response. I had sweats, temperature fluctuation, but most of all, the post-op lab report proves beyond all doubt they gave me that transfusion and sent me home to die untreated. I want these people arrested. They should have been arrested years ago. There's no telling how many other people have been murdered, man. Any hematologist that knows anything about blood, man, and the immune system can look at that report and verify that I am absolutely telling the truth. Even if one stretches and says it was accidental. And that I didn't even write, man, clear instructions and give verbal instructions. Even though I was a medical lab tech. Even though I know, man, in thousands, man, of bloodborne diseases and, at least half a dozen very serious ones, man. I mean, the last thing you want to do nowadays is receive blood products. Seriously, man, it's dangerous, man. People just know enough to be dangerous, man. And then they don't know enough to know better. And it's like all over the place, man. And especially nowadays, hell, man, it came with the human genome, man. Whenever we finally get the news that science has finally made a discovery or a breakthrough, they've already known about it for at least 4 or 5 decades in the government. I'm serious, man. The rest of, how do you say I can't remember the terms now between the military and the citizenry. Derogatory terms. But basically, man, civilians, man, are always playing catch-up with government advancements in technology and in medical sciences. So when I tell you, man, that they've been doing genetic splicing for quite some time and cloning and so on and so forth, and, I'm not just talking, about a theory, man. I'm talking about, massive, man, studies, thousands of hours of research, photographs. I'm one of these people, man, that just is insatiable about knowledge, man. And especially when it comes to things that are being done by our leaders that are detrimental for us and can be life-threatening. And at this point in time, I feel we have to confront, the officials that put on this facade, man, of this country is so pristinely angelic in its behavior when it's really, man, so hypocritical, man. It's repugnant, man. Now, I love the way the founders of this nation designed this country to be, but I do not like what it is becoming, and as a result, again, of fascism, of eugenics, of downright Satanism, man, that has attacked this nation, man, covertly, man, and is resulting, man, in the same atrocities that were occurring in pre-Nazi Germany during the last Holocaust. Nazi Germany during the last Holocaust, the pre-war era, man, before things openly became, absolutely known about all the incredible atrocities being committed. And I'm trying to prevent what's already going on in this nation underneath our noses in state mental institutions and in hospitals, man. I remember when I went to the prosecutor and he's like, it's all just one big conspiracy, like he was acting like as if they all got together from the get-go and they're just out to get me. Instead of how I was telling it, that there's already so much corruption in our society and in cops. All these individuals, man, in these individual categories have already been the scandals, man, are notorious, man. So to think that it couldn't happen, that one person, unfortunately, man, because things have reached such a level of corruption, unfortunately marry somebody so psychotic and so greedy, and then unfortunately come across physicians, man, that are doing illegal organ harvesting, and then to come across cops, man, that rather get their wee-wees waxed, man, than actually put mass murders behind bars for public safety. When all those things individually are notoriously now, and not just scandal here and there. We're talking like notorious corruption, man, and well documented throughout this whole country and throughout the world. It's becoming an epidemic, man. And people just want to just not watch the news and not want to believe these things. They do it for a psychological reason, to put a false cloak of safety over them, to make them feel safe and secure in the world by denying, man, that this is the conditions we're now in. But by pretending these things are not going on will not make you or anyone else safer. Just look at the Holocaust victims, man. An ostrich hiding its head in the sand can still be eaten. You know, I'm saying you got to take the blinds off now, as disturbing as it may be, and you got to take a hard look at reality for your own personal safety and for that of your children. And do it, man, as soon as possible. Make time. It's that important. So I've shown you, man, that these people tried to murder me, man. I've given you the smoking gun evidence, man. Any prosecutor, man, should be able to put these people behind bars easily now. I've done the work, man, of the people that I went to, you know, for help that should have done it years ago. And yet, instead, they join in crimes against me. And then ever since, man. I mean, when I went to higher and higher authorities, man, instead of getting help, man, I got mockery, I got outright threats. Like that prosecutor, man. Oh, it's just one big conspiracy. You'll never know, man, you know, that I had such an adverse emotional response, man, that I actually just, you know, translated it into a smile, man. Because I feared, man, I was going to squeeze his pencil neck, man, and pop his little, I mean, irrational head right off his shoulders, man. But I had to soberly realize, man, I was just once again experiencing the psychological response people have, you know, which is, you know, some type of weird self-preservation, you know, from traumatic news. But it doesn't help them, and it doesn't help me, man, for them to be psychologically, you know, defensive that way, instead of looking at the evidence. So I've proven to you these people tried to murder me, man. Then I've proven to you that there's psychologists and psychiatrists right here in this town that think it's acceptable. I mean, when somebody is, I mean, insisting, man, on their release, when somebody has not committed any crimes, when somebody has done nothing dangerous to nobody, right? Not only to take away their freedom without any due process of law, but to threaten their life, man, with medications that have lethal side effects. That is psychological torture, and it is physical torture, man. They forced it on me. Fortunately, I had good advice from the other inmates that had already been tortured, man. Inmates. The other victims, man, in the mental institution. It said, man, to pretend to take it, man, you know, or evil things would happen to me, which they were trying to do, which is permanent commitment and abuse, and maybe death. So that's what I did, man. Because there's no way, man, anybody in their right mind would say, oh, yes, sure, Doc. You know, give me those, you know, chemical lobotomizers right away. I want to become brain dead. You know? I mean, can you imagine? I've shown you that these people think it's acceptable to do that to other people, man. It's right there in their medical reports, man. Frankly, I think their medical reports are enough to convict them as well, man, of atrocities, man. Frankly. In my opinion, man, if I was a judge or a jury, man, I'd have these people locked up, man. I'm asking for them to be arrested. And I'm seeking a law firm, man, to represent, man, the outrageous abuse, man, not only the attack on my life, man, the tortures I've been through, but the attack on my credit, my credibility, my ability to earn a living. I've lost my whole estate, my home. I mean, we're talking like, I mean, just in compensatory damages, man, lost wages, man. I mean, conservatively $1 million, not to mention punitive damages, man. I mean, how, you know, I mean, the treatment I need, if I can't get it in the United States, I might have to fly overseas somewhere. You know, hell, if I can't get the competent care I need in this country, then I am asking for political asylum, man, from, I mean, a country that has become so overwhelmingly corrupt, man, in its practices, man, that I can't get medical care no matter how hard I try, including begging publicly. I will bless, man, the nation that receives me, man. Man, I have a lot of knowledge from God. I don't care what anybody says. They can roll their eyes and think, yeah, sure, dude. Like I said, man, I hope I live, man, to make it so, man. Man, I can't believe it. Everybody, man, you know, virtually everybody in this country is going to end up in a hospital, man. Including these cops, man, that just couldn't control their gonads, man. How can they leave, man, psychopaths, man, this bad loose, man? I know, man, I mean, it's people's psychological response, man, not to believe me. But when I show you the evidence, man, it should go from, at that point, man, skepticism to, damn, man, we do have a problem in this nation. Because I not only showed you that these people did this to me, but I've shown you, man, the extensive measures I've taken already to notify the authorities, man. And not one of them did anything, man, but other than, like I said, mock me, laugh at me. I've got recordings, man, of these people, man. Just go to the website, blastedtrumpet.org, man. Like that prosecutor, man, he's like, where's the bodies? I'm like, damn doofus. What happens, man, when somebody dies in the hospital? We got millions of deaths in the hospital. What the hell do you think the bodies are? You know, if somebody doesn't claim them, what do they probably do, man? Incinerate them? I don't know. I don't know what the hell they, you know, do with unclaimed bodies. And that's a damn good question. That doesn't mean that they're not being murdered. You know? Sometimes they just notify, you know, next of kin or this or that, and they have an expensive funeral, or the person says, you know, I don't have the money, you know, to pay for a plot, do whatever, you know. Or they just, you know, don't return phone calls, and so they dispose of the bodies however they dispose bodies that are unclaimed. You think everybody in America that dies, man, has relatives, you know, that are willing to pay for a burial plot and full casket, and, you know? Be a good research subject, man, to find out in America what happens to all the unclaimed dead bodies, man, in hospitals and mental wards, in prisons. So Dr. Joy and Cruz and a mass murdering gang of sadistic homicidal maniacs, man, are busted, man. But as long as, you know, nobody arrests them, they're probably in their arrogance going to think they can just keep on getting away with it. So there's a lot, I mean, these are the things, man, that you could easily be uncovered, man, or at least, man, should be investigated. There's got to be a lab tech and a lab report, man, somewhere, man, at Deaconess, man. Why? Because that lab report, man, is their security, man. That my ex, man, won't front them off, man. Won't change her mind, man. You know, sue their asses, man. It's their guaranteed insurance, man, that she was involved in the whole thing. It's got to be somewhere. There's got to be a lab tech somewhere, man, unless they murdered him. Or maybe transferred them away. You know. I've got urine and hair samples from the period in question hidden away as proof, man, that my now ex-wife did this to me. Proof, man. I have proof. I've got original samples of substances I suspected her altering, man, when after my surgery I started to develop some of the same signs as prior. Started getting, you know, the bruises again, the bleeding again, the migraines again, I mean, really sick again. Not only before surgery, but after the surgery. She discouraged me from going to police to report the murder attempts. What wife, man, if her husband, man, remembered, man, that people intentionally tried to murder him, and he with a conscience, man, doesn't want the murderers loose to do harm to anybody else, would discourage him, man, unless she was involved, man. She discouraged me, man. She worked hard at discrediting me and fighting against me, man. She is guilty, man, of all along, man, being involved with the hell I've been through. And I can't believe, man, for my part, man, the old love is blind, man, was so true that despite all that, man, I was still boggled, man, as to why she was fighting against me so hard, man. I was thinking, how can this be, man? I mean, this is her golden opportunity that if her husband dies or if I don't, man, for her, if she can just make a few phone calls, man. I mean, I was people don't realize how sick I was, man. I mean, my best day, man, I dragged myself to the typewriter, man, and typed my affidavit. And it still would take me a while, and I finally got it done, and I got it notarized, and then I faxed it, man, to all of the police departments involved: Spokane, Sandpoint, Bonner County, and I even did Ponderay. And I don't think I did Kootenai. I figured that out of one of those departments, man, an investigation would ensue, so that it would, uncover all of this that I've now explained so far. So there she was, man, discouraging me from going to the police about murderers. And then she started discrediting me with acquaintances and colleagues or anyone I tried to tell what happened to me, claiming I was having some kind of nervous breakdown or making excuses for me or anything but that I was telling the truth, even though she knows, man, what happened to me there. Didn't want to admit it because of her own involvement. After I notified the police, she started having sex with many officers in the area because they know she did this to me. Instead of arresting her, blackmailed her for sex acts. Officer Knaggs, Knaggs, man, was one of the primary, man, perps in helping her defraud me of my estate, on top of covering up her severe crimes against me. All an investigator needs to do is track the phone records that exist over the time period in question, and the fact that my ex has the better part of my estate while I struggle to pay rent for a tiny one-bedroom. She's got, an estate, man, worth close to $500,000, and all of the major land, that we had between us. The way she conned me out of the better part of my estate was when I filed the complaint with the cops, with giving them my affidavit alleging attempted homicides, and was not going to pay these people for taking away my freedom illegally and for trying to murder me, under any circumstances. She was like, well, what if they, sue you, or what if, for whatever reason you can't prove that they did this to you and stuff, and do you want to see your wife, man, out on the streets, homeless, and giving me this sob story, man, that I was a bad husband if I didn't, take care of her by, quit claiming all of our assets over to her, and then her saying that in the process, man, if for some reason that I couldn't prove these murderers did this to me, that I'd still have my estate intact, and that I wouldn't lose it to countersuits, or that I'd have a place, man, with a roof over my head and a bed and this and that and everything. And after she suckered me, man, into signing all these things, man, that's when I found out about all the cops. That's when I found out she'd been all involved all along. And that's when I found out, man, she gave me gonorrhea and boasted, man, of getting away with all this, and that I was a sucker, man, and I basically, man, there was nothing I could do. That not only did she get away with brutally torturing me, and, multiple homicide attempts, discrediting me, man, having me illegally incarcerated, having me, misdiagnosed, leaving me in incredible amounts of suffering, and rubbing in about the death of my puppy who was shot, and on and on and on, man. She's boasted, man, boasted about doing these things to me, and that there was nothing I could do about it because of how many cops she had screwed. That on top of all of it, she succeeded in defrauding me out of years of my hard work, and basically was having orgies, man, you know, to celebrate, man, her successful scheme of extreme abuse, man, and then, as far as I'm concerned, estate theft, man, grand larceny on a massive scale. He never paid any of the agreed terms in our so-called divorce, which was supposed to be on paper to protect our assets from murderers, man. When I didn't know all along she was involved. And we found out after it was too late. When I've gone to attorneys, man, trying to get some type of, you know, remedy, man, for any of this, man. And you can imagine the response, man. Most of them do not take the time, man, to even begin to look at the paperwork, man, to begin to look at the evidence. You know, they're like, well, if you can get, you know, a lab tech to actually, you know, or somewhere, you know, to actually do that test, you know, proving, you know, that she poisoned you, or if you have original poison samples that she was giving you, or anything, you know, that's like super, you know, conclusive, hardcore evidence, well, then you might want to give us a call. That type of attitude, man. So I'm doing my best, because I want what's left, whatever's left in my estate that hasn't been blown on scumbags, and returned to me as soon as possible. I want her assets frozen, man. I don't want some attorney, man, you know, getting, you know, that thinks that, you know, I'm lying or making this up, you know, defending her and getting whatever's left of the years of my hard work that she still has in her possession. I want her assets frozen. I want to have first dibs, man, at restoration, at restitution, man. I'm just asking, man. I mean, I worked hard, man. I mean, really hard, man, for all that, man. Many endless 100-hour weeks. Many, I mean, years, man, with hardly any days off, man. And the days that I would get off, it would just be of sheer exhaustion, and I just couldn't, you know, go into work one more day. And she told me, because I was still on inactive status and it's legal, man, that since she took over all my clients, man, and I had developer clients, some of them, you know, $1 million, you know, dollar or more deals, that she would give me, you know, 50%, man, you know, because she knew I'd worked for years for some of them. She never has given me 1 penny, man, in referral fees, man, not 1 cent, man. She just lied and lied and lied and lied and more lies. I mean, after the papers were signed and she gave me gonorrhea as a parting gift, and then, I mean, rubbed in, man, you know, everything she had done to me, and was like there was nothing I could do about it, and was all smug in her, you know, I mean, psychotic, man, I mean, tendencies, man, and her cleverness and outrageous abuse, man. I cannot, man, express enough, man, that in my personal opinion, man, I mean, I have watched, man, like how about that guy that murdered his wife and baby just so, you know, he could be with his, you know, mistress on the side and, you know, party on the life insurance and stuff. This is worse, man. I mean, this is numerous homicide attempts, numerous betrayals, man, numerous tortures, man, on many levels, man, and estate theft on top of all of it, man. She should have been arrested, man, you know, when they discovered she was poisoning me and Deaconess. I would have still had my estate intact. I wouldn't have gone through incredible abuse, man, afterwards. People, man, mocking me, laughing at me, ostracizing me, thinking I'm nuts. I mean, former colleagues, people shunning me, man. thank God for, the people, man, that have just not known what to do. Maybe didn't disbelieve me, but maybe just didn't know how they could possibly help, man. But at least they didn't maltreat me. I can't believe how many people, man, patronize me, man. She should have been arrested. But mass murderers are still loose at Deaconess. My psychopath ex-wife, man, is still loose. I mean, corrupt sex offenders and estate robbers disguised as law enforcement within Bonner County and Sanborn police departments are all still loose. And the conspiracy isn't that they all planned this in advance. The conspiracy is that just corruption after corruption after corruption. And unfortunately for me, I've had to walk through all of it, man. Corruption, and then even higher authorities, corruption. There's too much corruption, man. Too much incompetence, man. And all these atrocities, man, at this point are still on the loose, man. They're still being committed, and innocent citizens, are still in grave danger and peril, man. So, I mean, if I'm gonna die, man, if I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna at least do my best to make sure that I die with a clear conscience, man. I'm serious, man. If you were suffering as bad as me, man, after a while you get to a point, man, where you don't care too much about yourself anymore. Where it's like, you're sitting there, going, I'm suffering so bad, man. How can I possibly, man, not do my best, man, to make sure, man. I mean, when you're suffering so bad that you think, man, even Hitler and Stalin, people that, did heinous, serious, man, offenses on the earth, man, weren't even treated that bad, man. And as such, maybe you think that not even they should be treated that bad. It causes you, man, you have no choice but to do your best, man. To say, man, what these people have done is so unacceptable, man. That for a peaceful man of God to be tempted to not just a little violence, but extreme violence, to, think that these people deserve to be mutilated before they die. That what they've done, man, is beyond anything that's even remotely acceptable behavior on earth, man. They must be locked up. You cannot let these people do what they did to me to no one else. I cannot express the level of suffering I'm in. I'm not saying I have a monopoly on suffering. I'm not saying there aren't people out there that are suffering worse somehow. Maybe, incendiary grenades with every, nerve ending exposed, man, to the air. I mean, 90% burns all over their body or something. Who knows, man? I'm just saying that, that I'm suffering enough, man, to make it impossible for me to remain silent, to make it impossible for me to ever give up until I either succeed or I'm dead. At getting these people locked up for public safety, for a clear conscience for me, and so that maybe I can bring closure, man, to one of the most hellish things, man, I mean, that I couldn't even begin to conceive of, man, ever happening to me. And that I'm kind of disturbed that God thought I had the strength to handle. The smoking gun, man, that my wife is involved in this, are the dated urine and hair samples, man. I made sure that there was some skin samples as well, man. Cells, dried skin, so on and so forth, man. And I don't know, man, that, so at least there should be DNA confirmation that it's mine. And then, like I said, the hair samples, there should be enough. I think some of them had roots. There should be enough, to confirm that it's my hair. And there should be, like, if it's scrutinized properly, man, confirmation of the chemicals and the time frame. I've got it in dated material, man, so that, the time frame is also confirmed. And I went to an effort, man, a real effort. I'm not one that likes to beg or to plead, man, but I am really seriously asking, man, for competent authorities, man, to please, man, don't put me through more hell, man. I'll take a polygraph, man, but do not, man, lock me up, by you thinking that I'm nuts. And when you can't prove it, and I've got evidence enough to, I believe, man, everything I've shown you to warrant a competent investigation as soon as possible. It's unfortunate for me that probably the only witness that hasn't conspired with Jane to do these evil crimes against me is maybe the lab tech at Deaconess that originally did the tox screen prior to surgery. And also probably the young intern nurse, man, that actually gave me the transfusion. I know, man, that she's not, guilty of maliciously doing it. What she was doing was she was just doing what she was told. She conned, man, a couple of our acquaintances into lying to me, man, to kidnap me into NIBH, man. I already showed you in the medical report, man, that the doctors confirmed that these people lied to me, man. What they don't put in their medical reports is that the administration of the NIBH sector of Kootenai Medical Center lied to me as well when I asked them, was this a Wilson's treatment facility or at least a Wilson's expert on site, to get me to sign the admittance forms. That I wouldn't get to see, the expert unless I signed those forms. So in other words, not only did my ex and my acquaintances participate in felony kidnapping by deception, but the actual hospital staff did as well. Now, there's no way I would have admitted myself to a mental ward, man, for, personal abuse, especially since, as I've told you many times, that in my professional opinion, as a licensed and ordained minister and as a biblical scholar, man, that one of the most demonic professions ever to walk this earth is secular psychology, man. It is steeped with anti-Christian, man, thought and principles and actions, steeped, that go directly contrary to God's counsel. That and the corrupt lawyers and judges, just like Christ got all over. But in his day, I don't think there was a bunch of head shrinks around. So, because if there had been, when all these people were saying he's mad, I don't feel like I'm in such terrible company when the people of the world of his day accused Christ of being, nuts or whatever, man. So I don't feel like too bad, man, but I guarantee you, man, if head shrinks had been around in his day, man, he'd been all over him too, man. Anyone that sits in judgment goes around slandering and libeling others, man, for a career, man, thinking that somehow helps them. What wonderful people, man. So by that betrayal, that's when I discovered, like I said, man, that they're torturing and murdering people, man, right here. Now granted, they probably don't have a bunch of dead bodies coming right out of the NIBH sector, because I watched them monitor the vitals, and when they get really sick, then they ship them off to state. So probably they are dying in the state facility down in Orofino. And that's probably where you should ask, man, to exhume the unmarked graves, man, and see if there's saw marks on bones and evidence of all kinds of abuse and torture, man. I'm serious, man. You guys think, man, it's like, oh yeah, dude, now you're going way off. No, man. The greatest atrocities that have ever been committed in the history of mankind have been done by, head shrinks, man. And not just in Nazi Germany. There's evidences of massive abuse in this country. Yes, there is, man. You need to do research. I'm not just putting out wild allegations, man. I have spent thousands of hours, man, looking into why what has happened to me has happened to me, man. I'm so tired, man, of people arguing with me that don't know anything about what they're talking about. Zero, man, having done not one shred of research. poisoning them to death. None of the staff who absolutely must have known. And like I said, if it's obvious to a casual observer like me, where I can just look macroscopically and see this guy, man, orange, yellow eyes, man, red rashes, man, clearly, man, hepatic issues, man. And they're giving him medications, man, that say right on, do not administer to anybody with hepatic complications, as this medication can have lethal side effects. They can't be illiterate, man, and have made it through nursing school or med school. So these people are intentionally, man, euthanizing people, man. Torturing and euthanizing them. Brutally torturing them with harmful psychotropics, man. And I showed you, man. I showed you, man, that in their own medical report, man, in their own thing, that they sat there and said, I told Mr. Swinson this could cause, permanent brain damage, man. And not so many words, man. Permanent organ damage. Can cause trembling and speech difficulties for life. Can cause neuromotorological issues for life. And this doctor was all for prescribing them. I don't know, what more people need to see that these people should be arrested. Like as soon as may be affected. They have committed the worst kinds of aggravated assault, man. I'm serious, man. Between having to take these things that they wanted to prescribe to me and having somebody just slug the shit out of me, I'd much rather, man, be assaulted, man, with fisticuffs, man. Do you want to be held down and by force have poisonous, toxic, brain-damaging, organ-damaging, life-threatening substances forced into your person? These people think that that's acceptable behavior. All because, somebody walks through their door that claims, man, that they've been completely lied about, falsely accused, and is wanting their freedom. That they actually participated in lying about, and then claimed that there was, that I was suffering zero, intuition about my own, situation, by asking, so this isn't a Wilson's treatment facility? Because the administration that received me told me it was. So by me being naive enough to believe that there's no way professional medical staff have the right to lie to people about the services they're offering in order to get them to admit themselves so they can charge them and illegally detain them. Felony offenses have been committed here, man. These people must be locked up. I want this publicly exposed, man, as how incredibly corrupt what they did to me, how evil and how wrong, and how they actually think that, like I said, man, I have shown you, they think it's acceptable behavior to do this to people. I want the public to know. I want you to put yourself in that position, that a couple friends or your spouse, or for whatever reason, man, just get together and think that maybe, who knows, maybe you see a UFO or something. I don't know. Maybe you see Sasquatch. Or maybe you see something that you just can't explain, and you think, telling your spouse or this or that would be like, no big deal. That, you're married and stuff, and that, you should be able to trust your spouse with whatever, right? But instead, your spouse starts thinking, oh, person's crazy. And then she tells a couple of her friends, and then they all like, oh yeah, man, we gotta make sure, man, he gets some treatment, or she gets some treatment, or whatever, right? And so they conspire together to lie to you, to trick you, man, in admitting yourself into a situation. And it wouldn't have worked if the staff at the, had the professional integrity to tell you the truth, but lied to you as well. So you think that you're actually, admitting yourself for something that you personally desperately are trying to get for yourself because you're in incredible agonizing pain. And then they don't give you any pain medication. They sit there and mock at you and call you delusional for daring to believe them that they were telling the truth. This is the shit, man, these people put me through, man. Jane lied to me, threatened me numerous occasions prior to even giving me gonorrhea. Pled that my illness not result in us losing, everything we had worked so hard for. Suggest I quit claim the bulk of our estate, man, into her name. Let her take the best of our personal possessions in case collections tried to come after me for medical bills that I was refusing to pay because, like I said, man, these people tried to murder me. There's no way I'm going to pay for my own murder, man, or illegal incarceration, or betrayal, or lied to, or medical malpractice, or whatever you want to call it, man. It is horrible, man. Nobody, man, should go through what I went through, man. Nobody. I didn't deserve under any circumstances, and I'd never pay these people, man. Never, man. So at a time, though, I was growing more suspicious of everything she had done to me, I couldn't see, very much of, any other choice, really. I didn't know anybody else, man. And she was claiming that if I didn't, agree, man, that she would, not give me any of the referrals she had promised, any of the money, any help, I was so sick, man. I mean, to have nobody in this world that I knew that would, help me in my situation. People wonder, man, when they're, you see all these talk shows where typically it's the women that were in a life-threatening, abusive situation, right? Now, I know what being trapped is, man. I was working so many weeks, man, back-to-back, 100-hour weeks, and so much, man. I had no social life. I mean, my friends, if I could call them that, are out of state with families of their own and stuff. I hadn't even hardly talked to them in maybe 10 years. It's not like I had a network to fall on, man, of family or friends. About the only person I knew in my adult life was this person, man. I understand what feeling trapped, man, is. Especially when I'm so sick, man, that I can no longer work, man, to provide for myself. And the whole process of even getting approved for disability is so, when you're that ill, so daunting, man, that it's almost an impossibility. And to not have anyone to help me through any of that, through any options, man, for my own survival, man. I mean, I can't express, man, the legitimate terror, man, when you don't have any money, when you've got no ability to get groceries, when you're so sick you can't even make it into town and you have to pick up the phone and hope some ministry will bring you some food, which, praise God, one did. But still, man, when you're in terror, man, absolute terror of literally, man, being homeless, man, in excruciating pain, unable to get even any medical attention, no matter how hard you try, and thinking that, I mean, there's a very real possibility you're going to die under some tree, man, in horrible pain, man, homeless, man, after years, man, I mean, years of the most intense, grueling work ever, man, to break out of poverty, to become a full-time ministry that will never have to ask for a donation. I don't care if people don't believe it, man. It's the truth. At any rate, so, I mean, between everything else I was enduring, and the cops not helping me, and actually being threatened by even higher authorities like this FBI guy, or getting that phone call and the phone message about it being a form of population management after going to the U.S. Attorney General's office, and I mean, contacting media and rags. I mean, I figured, the Globe or the Inquirer or somebody, man, would, I mean, even if they wanted to call me an outrageous nut, man, even if they wanted to insult me, I mean, I just figured somebody, man, would think that what I was saying was at least, somewhat newsworthy, man, somewhat of a story, man. massive, man, corruption and scandals, man, on all the issues, man, that we're facing in this country. I would think that it would have been somebody, man. Nothing, man. Not one person. If there was one day when I was having this issue that Nags and Lehman and the other cop that initially went over with Lehman, I don't know the guy's name, Sprague. I can't quite remember. I can see him, man, kind of a stocky guy like Lehman, about Lehman's height, but brown hair instead of black, man, dark brown. At any rate, but those three were over there on a certain day, and Nags was pretending like to threaten to, like, literally, kill her with a gun or something like this, like she was in danger, right? And I had this dream, man, that Jane the whole night was up, man, doing this thing, psychically, to try to, convince me that she was in danger, and that she needed help or this or that or whatever. So finally, early in the morning, man, I'm like, even though I'd called her the night before and she said, man, I'm not in danger, man, you're just thinking it, blah, 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 even though she did something that she never does, which is, as soon as I called, man, it was like, before the first ring was even done, she picked up the phone. And I found out later, man, that just something out of the ordinary like that a person never does can be sometimes the only signal they can give you that something's wrong. But, I mean, I didn't know, man. Anyway, I had this vision that those three were over there, man. And it was like some trick Nags was doing to prove that I wouldn't come to help her or something like this, even though she put me through all this stuff. I mean, at the time we were still married, and even though I knew all this other stuff was going on, what I thought was that, she was being forced, man, by the officers, man, through, threats to both of us to do all this, that it wasn't a mutual thing about her covering up what she did to me and this and that. Eventually I had to face the music, the reality, man, that I was betrayed by the one person, man, that I, knew the most on planet Earth and had let myself, man, be the most open to and tricked myself into thinking I loved. And I realized that what I'd done was I loved this imaginary figure in my head that I plastered over this person, to make, myself blind to the way she really was, man. It's like I loved the idea, the idol of thinking that I married a loving, faithful, wise, wonderful wife. And I would tell myself that despite all evidence to the contrary over and over again, to continue to work on my marriage. At any rate, so I'm having this, and so finally in the morning, man, I couldn't take it any longer, so I get ready to drive over there, and I knew that 6 a.m. was some kind of a deadline, so at about 6:05, right, I'm turning on the street, and this one car, man, suddenly is turning, right in front of me, and I sped up, man, to see the plates, because once again I got a feeling that this was like undercover and that something wasn't right, and I didn't know what, but I wanted to identify the plates, and so I sped up, and as I was speeding up, man, the car tried to, outdistance me, so then I really felt like something wasn't right, and it's like, got up on the plates and read them off, and then I looked again at the clock, and I go, well, heck, it's too late anyways, man. Whatever the danger was, man, it's too late now anyways. Because somehow I knew 6 a.m. was the cutoff. And at any rate, what happened after that was that I had this, an intense vision that this person actually, was undercover, and knew that I was going into a dangerous situation and was actually going to help me, and that because I didn't proceed forward, that, because my vehicle was bugged, that I actually fronted him off on his plates unintentionally, and put him in a very dangerous situation. And at any rate, I had this vision that this guy's name was John Fairchild, and I saw him, begging that they wouldn't kill his wife or this or that, and that his superior shot him in the head, murdered him. And it could be that an undercover agent by the name of John Fairchild has already been murdered, over all this that's been going on. I hope that's not true. I hope that was just some kind of, weird nightmare, but it was tied into the circumstances of that day. At any rate, Jane later on called me, later on in the morning, and she was pissed. And I think she was pissed because I think it actually did happen. I think that what I was shown was that Nags, after 6 a.m. then told her to go do something in town here, and I think it was with that fat 400-pound, slob weight, something ain't right, I think, I could be wrong, but she was mad, man, and probably because, she had tried so hard, man, to, alert me that she felt in danger at least, and then Nags afterwards, man, was all like, Jane, I was just trying to show you, man, he wouldn't come, man. That I wouldn't have hurt you, and all this and that. In other words, that both of us have been brutally tortured, man, over this, but it all started with her crimes, man. And none of these people would have been in our lives had she not done what she did to me. And that she ended up using Nags, man, screwing him, and because he helped her, cover up of the crime she did to me, that he also helped her, man, threaten the doctors to stop trying to collect the $50,000 apiece for trying to kill me, saying that in exchange for sex, in exchange for also, the ability to, profit off my estate and years of my hard work. So he threatened, the doctors, man, that if they called because he was a cop, he could get away with making sure they ended up dead. So stop calling and trying to collect. So Jane, man, through, corruption and sex and everything else, man, kind of come out smelling like a rose and all this, man, with a huge portion, of the estate that really doesn't belong to her, and she sold, man, the better part of our holdings already and reinvested in a 40-acre property we had identified and developed it and everything. And I know by revelation that she suckered one of her clients, Ted Mallon, into helping invest in that property. And there's a whole bunch, man. Some guy from Oregon or something, man, she had her designs on, named Dave, I think McClelland or something like that. That guy could be potentially in danger, man, if she's working on a relationship that way. It's hard to tell, man, but the bottom line is that if she falls on financial hard times again, I wouldn't put it past her for a second to sucker somebody else, man, and murder him by poisoning him. Because now she thinks that she can absolutely, man, positively get away with it without any consequences whatsoever. So she had me quit claim. She hired an attorney to drop the paperwork. And it was like, if I didn't sign it, if I forced the issue into court, I was too sick to fight her in court. First of all, I was literally, man, at that point so close to death, man, that I felt like one battle like that for sure would just absolutely be the end of me. So between her lying about us still being spiritually married and, trying to protect our assets and make sure her herself didn't end up in the streets and all the many different things she would also threaten, that if I, didn't trust her enough with all that stuff, man, I'd never get one bit of help from her, man, then one dime from all of the clients of all the years and stuff, and that, between everything else I was going through, and all between the lies and the fraud and the threats and just literally, man, I don't know if I can explain to people, man, how hard it is, man, to keep your sanity, man, through, being in excruciating physical pain every day, man, and those types of psychological tortures, man. To the point where you can think competently, man, where you can defend yourself. I'm serious, man. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, man. I was in fear for my life, man. and with good reason. Especially, man, when you go to other doctors and other hospitals and they all participate in collusion and conspiracy, man, to cover up what the first one did. When you start realizing, man, it's like, you know, some type of, it's almost as bad as the cops, man, covering up when they're partners and giving a gun or something, covering up crimes for one another. Man, the doctors and hospitals do it as well, man. You know, that they cover for one another and shit. Whether it's crimes or whether it's malpractice or whatever it is, man, that shouldn't be done is being done. At any rate, I didn't have any finances, man. I had no money. I couldn't hire an attorney, man, to defend myself either. I mean, I didn't have the strength, I didn't have the help, I didn't have the money. I had pretty much no choice, man, as I saw it, man, in my circumstances, than to do what I did. And as soon as I did it, she made me regret it. Laughed and boasted and thoroughly enjoyed, man, you know, everything she had done to me. I know, man, why people can't believe it, because they can't imagine anybody that cold-blooded or cruel, man. And I really, you know, it's hard for me to be angry or upset with people, even though I know I'm not a liar, man. Because if I really look at it from the perspective of somebody listening, man, I would find it almost impossible to believe somebody's that cold-blooded, man. I don't know what to say other than, like I said, I've got the urine and hair samples. You know, I've got the evidence proving the doctors, and I think if you start arresting them and questioning them, man, that the rest of it's all going to fall like dominoes. You know? I mean, frankly, man, you know, between the two, what's the common connector, man? The common thread was my betraying wife the whole time. The fact that she knew these doctors did this to me, the transfusion, and instead of helping me get an attorney, man, that alone, man, should bring enough suspicion, man, to investigate the shit out of her, right? What kind of spouse, man, lets their own husband or their own wife, man, have people, you know, try to murder them and leaves that unaddressed, man? In fact, you know, works at then discrediting them, then doing their damnedest, man, you know, publicly and privately, man, to work against them and trying to make other people safe, right? If there's not, you know, collusion and conspiracy on their part as well. No spouse, man, would allow, and that loves their spouse, allow that kind of malicious treatment on their loved one, man, without a fight, man. I don't care if it is a woman, man. Especially one as, you know, profiteering and as an opportunistic as the one I married, man. There's nowhere near an equal division, man. Anybody can see, man, that the division of our assets was nowhere near equal, man. I mean, if this had been a contested divorce, man, I would have at least had the temerity, man, to argue that all real estate would have to be liquidated in order for there to be a fair determinate value. So, I mean, what I'm saying is true, man. She defrauded me. And after she had suckered me in through all of it, man, and she totally rubbed it in on me, man. Just to make sure that I knew, man, that all along, man. And I still don't know to this day, man, why a person would be that cold-blooded or cruel. I do know that when I tested positive for mononucleosis, because it's not publicly known that a false positive, here I was bedridden, right? There ain't no way, man, I'm in the mountains, you know, completely isolated with no one around, bedridden, and I test positive for mono, man. And this for months, right? You know, completely isolated. So the bottom line is because people didn't know that when a false positive for mono can indicate undiagnosed Wilson's as well as a lab result. That's another thing that I could have faked, you know. It's an actual part of my medical record. And because people didn't know that, man, you know, including her. Like, she's thinking, even though she'd been the one all along and been all unfaithful, screwing around, sucking guys' dicks, fucking around, trying to even screw our tenants. Man, I married very poorly. Out of billions of people, man, I didn't just marry somebody that's an adulteress, man. I married a horrible person, man. I'm beyond disappointed, man. I'm beyond repulsed and disgusted, man. I can't believe how hard I worked for such an individual, man. It's so hard for me, man, to face the reality, man, of all of it, man. That's why I can't really blame people too much, man. For not believing me, for thinking that, that I'm not telling the truth, even though I've got scientific and legal evidence to prove it. It is hard to believe, man, that anybody, man, could be that cold-blooded, man. But I read a report recently, man, and psychiatrists published this and claim there's about 4% of the populace that are true psychopaths, man, that don't have a conscience, man. And I was thinking to myself, well, then I married one. Man. It's hard to believe, man, people can, under any circumstances, even if they're a psychopath, do what she did, man. Anyway, I was so seriously ill, I didn't have the strength or financial means to force insurance companies to keep their agreements in their policies either, man. When you start getting so sick, you don't have the means, man, to keep your premiums up. I lost all my insurances. So, I couldn't even, if I wanted to finally, if I could have found any competent medical practitioners anywhere around here, man, I couldn't afford to pay them. So with no insurance, no liquid assets, and looking, at unpaid mortgage monthly bills, her threat, if I didn't sign them to not pay any of the monies from the clients that I'd worked years for, and to not help me at all when I didn't know anybody else, man. On top of saying that, we'd still be spiritually married if, provided I didn't contest or all this and that, and that I'd still have a home, when I got evicted, or I can't remember the term of it. When I lost my home, foreclosed on. I'm tired at this point, man. I'm really tired, man. I lost my truck, my home, even my dog was shot. And my wife had group sex with numerous cops after a cop had shot me in the head in 1988. I've been brutally maltreated, man. I've been tortured for a number of years, man. Excruciating physical pain. Sometimes it is, I'm barely able, man, to maintain anymore. And by that I mean to find, man, the strength, even with my knowledge of God, even with His Spirit, even with determination and will, even with all my emotions, man, trying my hardest, man, to make sure nobody else is treated this way. So again, I'm not a person that likes to beg, man, but I'm pleading, man. I suppose I am, man. Please, man, I'll sign. Again, I'm repeating myself. Any waiver, any, indemnification agreement, man. I want my entire body flushed, man, with O-positive blood transfusion therapy, man. If I, after all these years, man, then suffer another, hemolytic response, either intravenously or extravenously, either way, man, that causes me, man, to suffocate or have a heart attack or whatever, do not resuscitate me. And I figure it's my time to go, man. And if in God's, not going to heal me, man, after this much effort. When there's so much I'd still like to do. I mean, I've barely shared 1% of what the Lord's taught me with you. Not even that. Thousands, man. Thousands of inventions, man. I don't ever recall reading in all of history, man, as much, man, visions about things that don't exist, man, that I can explain simply because I have enough of base knowledge, man, by God's grace. In all kinds of fields and areas, man. Some, man, that could be literally $1 trillion, man, or more, man. I mean, world-changing. And people, I know it's easy to say delusions of grandeur, right? But like I said, just the bio-nanotech, man, curing every type of viral and every type of bacterial infection and every type of parasitical infection, just that, man, that's $1 trillion one. Bio-nanotech, man, coated, synthesized cells, man, with the, elements of the body, man, so that it's not, rejected, it's not metal, that it just either, after it does its job, is either dissolved and excreted or assimilated as nutrients in the body. We are on the verge, man, of being able to do this, man, and that is the way all for treatment for those types of ailments should go. Avoid, man, at this point, man, messing with stem cells thinking that's going to do the trick, man. Until you really get that knowledge down thoroughly, man, it's going to cause different types of cancers and other types of ailments and early deaths, man. You start messing with the genetic code and mutating cells that way, man, and trying to put them in people's bodies. It's going to cause problems, man. And you better spend a lot of time in that area. But the direction I'm telling you, to synthesize replicates of killer cells, man, of identifier and killer cells, man, and program them to attack the specific type of ailments, man, that are known to man on a viral level, on a parasitical level, on a bacterial level, on a coccal level. Any type of those invasive intruders into the body that cause those ailments. These things can be programmed to consume just like killer white blood cells that are naturally made and generated through the spleen. So that's the direction to go for curing all those ailments. At any rate, how about, like I said, man, increasing people's lifespans by double, man. Cellular regeneration, man, formulas, man. How about, the power packs I was telling you about? How about rivers in the desert? How about, if I go, man, and list, man, like the major plays, man, they're all, man, either multi-billion or multi-trillion-dollar steps in improving mankind's quality of life, man, including, man, cellular concentrates that, operate more on the color of, darkened chlorophyll rather than black, man. Will create, a better response, man, in the photo cells of solar technology. And how about, like I said, man, the hydroelectric engines that we have right now are almost there. But when we get to the point where we've got the hydroelectric engines, man, that are actually basically electromagnetic engines encased in polymers that are completely silent, but that are actually, receive a boost, man, through sprayed on, and solar cells right into the paint, either into the clear coat on top of paint, or right into the paint itself, man. We're this close, man, with just a little bit more research into being able to align those, man, so that they conduct right, and simply by the method of how you spray them on. In other words, some type of magnetized charges are coming out of the flow tube. And I saw this as possible, man. Cars would basically run for a lifetime, man. At least 50 years without needing hardly any repair work, man. I mean, other than maybe, bushings and joints, just like we need today. The air jets, man, like you've seen in some of these movies, man, like the island where it looked like a motorcycle and he's flying through the air. I definitely saw that if they don't already have those, man, they should, because basically it's just a modified, since there's so much of a relationship between hydrodynamics and aerodynamics. I mean, after all, man, water vapor and air is just less dense than the water vapor, man, in our seas, right? So they're very similar, man. So in other words, we got jet skis right now, air skis, if you want to call them, or whatever, air jets. For individual riders, man, all they need is just a little bit more, wingspan than the ones they've got, on the water, and a little bit of control, man. For left and right, easy motions, man. And I saw, man, cops would get these things first, man. Could make it through all the dense traffic areas in the cities, man, easily. Flying just, right up against cars without really hurting them, because the jet propulsion is coming out the back. And then I wrote about those things, man, at least 15 to 20 years ago, long before, that movie ever came out, or any of these movies or like Halo games or anything like that. Man, while we were still married, she was advertising herself on Big Beautiful Woman, man, online, and changing her name. Even though we were still married, she'd already changed her name to Jane Risberg. And she plotted, man, of doing everything I said, man, in advance, man, and put me through hell, man. Further found out she, listing the home she purchased right now, man, and she's trying to leave the state. I mean, I'd like her, man, to be stopped before she gets out of this state, man, so it doesn't involve, having to track her down across the country. Trying to sell that residence she was committing orgies at with police, man, covering not only her attempted homicides, but helping her defraud me out of, like I said, the bulk of my estate, man. The serious property and the expensive possessions, leaving me with, all the crap, man. In a home without running water, without proper sewage, man. I mean, so ill I couldn't even get into town mostly and to get my own groceries. She's a poisoner and by definition a psychopath, a danger to society. I'm generally concerned that if she again falls on hard financial times, or for any other twisted reason in her mind, someone else could end up dead or permanently injured by her. And nobody deserves, man, the excruciating torture, man, she put me through, man. Nobody, man. I'm not kidding, man. I thought about, some of the worst mass murderers in history. If I really wanted, them to be, horribly punished, I actually don't think I could do it to them, man. I'm not exaggerating, man. But if I thought, that they deserved horrible punishment, what I've been through, man, would have been it, man. So NIBH, man, like I said, I went to the U.S. prosecutor trying to get that office involved in stopping these atrocities, and the prosecutor, laughed and asked me where the bodies were. He made excuses, that the people locked up in the clinic were all mental patients when I responded that all they had to do was ask the locked up victims, look at their medical records, and follow the death certificates. In other words, man, I can't, no matter how hard I tried so far, to get anybody to help these people or myself, because they automatically make excuses for the criminals, man. I mean, who would ever thought, man, that when we're taught as little kids, man, to go to the police when you have crimes to report, man, that you'd be treated with, outrageous animosity, man, and adversarially, man. Without exception, man. When I said I was a personal eyewitness, man, that I wasn't just reporting hearsay, and that I saw with my own eyes, rather than ask me what evidence I have, he just automatically started slandering me, man, and accused me of also being, some kind of mentally ill, man. Is the duty of law enforcement when a citizen comes forward, man, to report crimes, man, to assault, man, to slander, to libel, and threaten, man, those that are trying to save people's lives, man. I don't mind people being skeptical, man, but to just automatically jump to insulting them and threatening them, it was extremely unprofessional, man. Horribly unprofessional. What would have been so hard about these people just simply saying, what evidence do you have to support these wild and outrageous allegations? If they're that skeptical. What would have been polite is just to say, what evidence do you have to support these allegations? And to patiently, man, because crimes of this nature, of this extent, man, require patience, man. Most people, man, most cops, most detectives think that all crimes are simple. That is not true, man. They obviously haven't studied history very well. The worst crimes, man, usually involve multiple persons and usually are, by definition, conspiracies, man. They're therefore the hardest to solve, but they're usually also the worst and most notorious and most heinous. Not all crimes are simple, man. Simple people commit simple crimes, man. There's an awful lot of people out there that are, really clever, man. I'm not saying, that they're intelligent enough, to choose wisely. I'm saying that they use their intelligence to choose poorly, man. And they pride themselves on being able to get over on others, man. Like my ex. Extremely intelligent, extremely manipulative, and she prides herself so much that she told me she could get away with murdering me in advance, man, during arguments. And so far, man, she's been right. She told me, man, that people automatically would not believe me simply because I had a criminal record, even though I was 20 years old, and even though I spent my whole time, man, studying to become a licensed ordained minister. And even though after I got out, I've tried my hardest to live as a man of integrity. Now, I'm not saying I've been perfect, man. I'm just saying, man, I certainly didn't commit the crimes that put me in prison in the first place ever again. And I tried really hard to work, man, and to be fair about my wages, to do things as ethically and honestly as possible. To treat people, man, as if, it was me, man, in their shoes. I've tried really hard. When I said I was an eyewitness to these crimes, like I said, man, he just automatically, man, immediately started slandering me, man. Laughing and mocking and thinking it was all funny. The staff at NIBH administer psychotropic medications that have lethal side effects to patients. Not all patients. Just the ones, man. With no one on the outside that cares about them, no legal representation, no means of defending themselves, that they can get away with torturing and euthanizing. They don't have anybody, man, on the outs to speak up for them, man. So I don't have any choice, man. With my type of conscience, man, having seen Christ, having known that Christ made each and every one of these people too, man, I have to speak up in their behalf. The victim's vitals are monitored as liver and kidney failure ensues from the administered drugs. They are then shipped out to state institutions like down in Orofino. Patients, victims that die there are disposed of, and that is where the bodies are, whether it's cremation or unmarked graves, man. Because most of them don't have family members that come get them. These psychotropics state that they are not to be administered to anyone with liver complications, and I personally watched with my own eyes jaundiced patient being given these lethal meds. They're being poisoned to death, and these people go to their jobs knowing they are poisoning people to death. This is illegal euthanization in practice. My lab reports prove, and med reports prove, these staff tried to administer these same drugs that carry lethal warnings to me. I've already shown you. The smoking gun, the doctors admit to lying to me to administer drugs that carry lethal side effects to me against my wishes in the medical reports and lab reports that prove I have Wilson's disease. These drugs are lethal and they know it. There is no way nurses can watch patients dying daily and taking their vitals and administering drugs causing the symptoms that they see in those patients and not knowing that that is absolutely what they are doing to them. There is an entire staff of mass murderers working at NIBH. All an investigator has to do is track the patients there that were shipped away and how many died prematurely while there or at the state to uncover the truth that these atrocities are occurring right under the unsuspecting public's noses, so to speak. Certain individuals within our government are involved in covering up these crimes. Look at the CNN report. Mass murdering doctors and nurses were released after committing multiple homicides while local, state, and federal authorities have done nothing to prevent their release into the public. Instead, actually allowed it. In other words, the prosecutor there was going to prosecute, man. But between the mayor, governor, and federal authorities, they released them. As far as I'm concerned, the whole nation should have, man, gone on a nationwide strike, man. That our government, man, let mass murderers loose into the public, man. I mean, knowingly let, man. The license plate that tailed me when I tried to report these crimes were government issue. I have photographs, man, of all the plates. The day that I ended up being lied to and deceived into illegal incarceration at NIBH, apparently, according to my friends, that there was like 12 people that called in saying, you know, that they were scared because I was, you know, taking pictures of their plates. I would, if I were a gambling man, I would say the vast majority of those were probably government issue, and all that people have to do, man, is find out if those people that called in that day were on the payroll and they were participating, therefore, in making sure, man, that I was discredited, man, about all these things. Wilson's disease affects 10% of the population, far more than AIDS, and not one authority has told the public or has any awareness alert been issued from any public or private entity. Hundreds of millions of people are affected by this genetic trait. It should be well known and especially newsworthy but not one broadcast media has covered this, though I have notified sources nationally and internationally. Governments now controls most media globally and is not allowing certain stories and information to be broadcasted to the general public. FDA approved, man. FDA approved. The lethal medications for human ingestion the same way they've approved drugs that murder babies, the same way they approve carcinogens and additives, preservatives put in poor people's food. The most highly processed and most toxic food products are also the cheapest. Aspartame still hasn't been removed by the FDA because it kills off the poor, ignorant, unsuspecting, gullible citizens. To a fascist, the intelligent survive while the weak ones die off. Tummy eugenics is not in practice when abortion clinics and military recruitment centers are in the poorest neighborhoods, mental patients are being murdered, and innocent citizens in hospitals at over 1 million souls every year. Our governing authorities have not given me one tiny bit of help, though I have pleaded with them, now extremely publicly and privately. I went to the FBI because the local authorities were also criminals. I needed to go to higher offices, and a 7-foot man by the name of Travis at the Coeur d'Alene FBI branch threatened to lock me up if I attempted to submit evidence proving these crimes. I have created a public website petitioning any and all righteous authorities in America, man, to help me stop these mass murderers that have personally survived and have the knowledge and evidence to put them away, and still no one has come to help me. Citizens, you are paying your tax dollars to mass murderers and authorities so corrupt they are actually preying upon us, not protecting us. Until I see evidence otherwise, U.S. authorities and other national government agencies represent the largest terrorist organizations on earth, not the public servants the general populace rely upon or think they are. I openly petition any honest authorities in the respective states and within our federal government to help me immediately arrest these persons and regain your trust, respect, and your honor. I have submitted affidavits of these crimes to every major branch of government. My testimony has been sworn under penalties of perjury regarding these events, but all governing bodies to date have made efforts to disregard my allegations. No investigations, no assistance, and if anything, have helped the criminals get away with these horrendous crimes against me and the public at large. Please help me arrest these heinous criminals as soon as possible. Respectfully, Michael Swenson, P.O. Box 3377, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho 83816, 208-290-2514. Citizen 522-924-090, United States freeborn. I'm going to conclude, by summarily closing with visual aids, man, of all of the history proving, man, that fascism, man, has systematically infused our government, man, taken over this nation intentionally, and that has been the cause of evolution being taught as fact, the brainwashing in our schools, and actually the downfall of this country to its present state. I'm going to prove that Nazi fascism, man, had occult links of satanic origin, man, and that these same Nazis and these same occult links are actually now present in our government. I have an alert to every single solitary, Christian man and woman in this nation that we must, man, start participating in all offices of government, in law enforcement, in our public education systems, and in health care, man, or we will not be able to obtain, any type of reasonable safety for ourselves if we continue to allow the spirit of Antichrist to move into these areas exclusively. I'm going to conclude with the bulletin of primary visual aids stating that even if you, after all I've already shown and taught you from and about God, don't believe the revelations, these hard evidence prove I'm telling the truth, at least enough to render a thorough and competent investigation and show the smoking guns of all my allegations in bulletin fashion.